It is Friday, November the 8th. We got college football, and hopefully you're off to a better start to your Friday than I am. It has been rough, and it's only 7 a.m. But we're here for you, and we're going to try to put a good show together. Hopefully it's going to happen.
What happened? What's so hard? What's the deal?
The old, what time was my flight supposed to leave last night? The old 10:20 out of Atlanta, maybe, I think, was the departure time to St. Louis.
Ooh.
Of course it was delayed. Of course. Sat on the runway in St. Louis. I don't know how you don't have anywhere to go at 11:30 when you land. There's nobody working at the rental car place. Like, literally just nobody there. I don't know if they were playing Nintendo in the back or something. Just hanging out. No big deal. Who needs their car at 11:40 when they get to the rental car place? And then the obvious hour and a half plus drive over to Como, where the lady working at the desk was also not in attendance for a while. I think she was playing Sega Genesis in the back. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, she feels more like a
Stay
Switch
hot.
lady.
Good start. I'm excited though.
Stay hot.
I am excited. Residence Inn right here in beautiful Columbia. I got a Golden Corral to my right and a Hooters to my left. I can't go wrong.
What more
this
you
weekend.
need?
That is literally
Nothing.
heaven.
Not a single thing. Except for, even though Greg is against the room coffee maker, the multiple packs of decaf in the room with no packs of calf. That's a bad start to your day. And then they put you on the top floor and you roll out to go get some coffee in the lobby, which is, if you know, Residence Inn is basically an apartment complex. And I'm in the woods by the interstate back here. And yeah, elevators out. No go on those. We're not doing those this morning. That's God telling me you need to get your fat rear down there and walk some steps here at 6:50. Get going.
How many floors is it?
It's 4. But with 3 cups of coffee, running a little behind on 3 hours of sleep, whatever it is, 4 hours of sleep. It's not the best, but hey, we are dominating this Friday. I'm just letting everybody know. We're killing.
Here's the good news.
Off to a great start.
Here's
the best news is we get to meet with the
Probably at
Missouri
bottom.
coaches in person, Greg. We get to meet with them in person.
Well, it would really stink if you didn't. I mean, because Eli is a real gas. What I don't understand is, I know we have
which
the weather.
Which part of
coming
that
in.
do you not follow? I feel like that was a lot there early on a Friday.
Well, the weather coming in, I understand, has created some issues, but usually by 11 o'clock, I don't know about you, I feel like I have pretty good luck with Delta. I have not had great luck with American in recent years. I don't know why that is. I do feel like Delta is usually pretty good about their late night flights, which is why I've taken them so many times. Is this a regular occurrence for you on Delta?
That's a great question. I haven't been on Delta much this year. I'm an American guy now. Actually, you know what? I'm a utility player. That's what Greg McElroy taught me. I park hourly. Walked right past that valet yesterday. Didn't give him a look. And,
How good is hourly though?
It's the best.
Is it kind of a game changer?
I don't think I have parked more than 2 spaces away from the staircase, walking straight to the terminal.
It's so good. I had a buddy text me the other day. He's like, dude, how much is hourly? I'm like, yeah, it's this. He goes, that's a little more, but I mean, it's worth it. I'm like, I'm telling you, it's worth it. Outside of having to go down 8 stairs.
Yeah, it's going to cost me a new bag sooner than I thought because I just rolled my bag down the 8 stairs. I don't care.
Oh, do you really?
Just.
I carry mine.
Listen, I've only had 3 back injections the last 3 weeks, so I'm not carrying my bag down those stairs. I'll just roll it.
No elevator?
I might just start letting it roll itself down and then just grab it at the bottom. See how that goes.
Yeah, but think about the time you save and not having to deal with people. Those are 2 wins.
It's a lot. I mean, and especially when random person who shops at your wife's online store messages her and says she has your keys to your car, that's a massive win. So
yes,
we'll take it. I'll take all of it. I'll take Friday being miserable because we know we got a great Saturday coming up. So what are you most looking forward to with this slate of games? Well, you just drove to Oxford, right? It's nothing. It's easy.
Yeah, 2:45 thereabouts. Not too bad. What am I looking forward to? Well, Bama LSU is arguably my favorite game on the calendar. I especially like even years. I like the road trip there. I just think it's cool to see Bama playing under the lights at night in Tiger Stadium. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to seeing if Ole Miss is improved in the areas in which they've talked about trying to improve. And this game has been circled by Lane Kiffin all offseason. This game has been discussed by many as the opportunity for Ole Miss to finally show that they belong at the top of the college football conversation. I know they've lost a couple other games, but I don't really care about those because it's been always about this season. It's always been about competing with and beating the Alabamas, the Georgias, the Texases, the big bullies on the block. And Ole Miss never been capable of doing that under Lane Kiffin, so maybe this is the game that they can potentially get things turned in their direction. I'm really interested to see if Texas, who I think is going up against a painfully underrated Florida team, I'm really interested to see if Texas can handle the heat. Florida is a team that I think can get after you in a lot of different ways. They can run it. They can throw it. I am a little concerned about whether or not TJ Lagway is going to be available. He's right now questionable. Maybe he plays, maybe he doesn't. But if he does, I think that game's going to be really interesting. Really interesting. Because I think Florida might be the most physical team Texas has played so far. You heard me right when I said that. I know they've played Georgia, but Georgia to me is athletic as can be. But the typical Georgia teams of the past, this one is not quite as physical as that one, as the 21s and the 22s. They can run better, but I don't know if they're as physical. So I don't know about you. Those three games kind of top of the list. Your game's interesting to me a lot because, I mean, Missouri's been a punching bag the last couple weeks, and now they finally have a chance to kind of gather and maybe make a late charge. But there's just a lot that's intriguing this weekend in college football.
I'm with you. And the part that may intrigue some the most is what is going to happen in Baton Rouge, something you did not experience. I don't know if it was the last year, second to last year, because I don't think Mike the Tiger was out in his cage in 97. No, that would have been 99 was my last trip. Let me put 47 on him, by the way. Got the coach fired. Cigar game. But I don't think the Tiger was there for that one. 97 definitely, because I can remember it was my first trip there. I walk out on the little, from the locker room, and you kind of look to your left, and literally 10 feet away is a live tiger, and you're just like, okay. Didn't see that coming, like him just being right there. And then the wildest part was they put him in the cage and they roll him around the exterior of the field, and all the cheerleaders were sitting on top of the cage. And there's just something about it that didn't make sense. You're just thinking, safety hazard. Like I feel like he could like get a paw through that cage and grab one of those calves, and just that could end poorly. But either way, like you wanted to kind of go over there by him and check him out and see him. And so apparently now LSU bringing the live tiger back. Not Mike the Tiger, who lives in a habitat across the street. That feels, why would we do that when we can drop ship one in from Florida and wheel him around the field and then let him be the one? I know the old Mike the Tiger won't get in the cart or whatever. That was a thing for a while. This game needs nothing extra, Greg. It needs absolutely zero extra. Now you got Nick Saban doing game day in town, won a national championship, multiple at one school, one at the other school. You're bringing the live tiger back. It's Alabama LSU. Playoff berth on the line for both. Possible elimination game for both. I mean, we didn't need to add anything to this game, and it feels like we've added a lot of extra ingredients to spice it up, and it was already going to be pretty spicy.
It's the best. It's my favorite game, and I know that's like something you just can't say because of Iron Bowl. Like heaven forbid, Iron Bowl's great. It's a great game. I love the game. But to me, when I was in school, this was the biggest one on our calendar. It just because of where LSU stood in the stratosphere of college football. They were kind of the alpha dog program when I arrived in the SEC. Florida took that mantle, but we didn't get a chance to play Florida every year. So this is the one. This is the one that meant most. It was the most talented team we played probably every year, and it was the most visceral hate that we experienced from an opposing team. It was a blast. It was a blast to play in, and one that I'll never forget. To have had the chance to play against them twice start against them twice was awesome. Once there and once at our place. So it's the best. Loved it. But you really look at this game, and these programs are very, very different than when they used to be. Programs that have become a little bit more offense-driven which is never the case with LSU and Alabama when I was in school. It was always defense. It was always a war. It was always a line of scrimmage battle. These two now, it's really all about offense and have some question marks for both on defense. I think both defenses have improved, but I don't know how much. I mean, that's the big question because it's easy to say, okay, Bama's a lot better. They just shut out Missouri. I think Missouri with Drew Pine is terrible. I look at LSU and you can say, okay, well, they looked pretty good last couple of weeks, like held Ole Miss in check. I know they ended up giving up 30-plus to Texas A&M, but the short field was the result of many of those because their offense couldn't stop turning it over. But I do think both defenses are improved. I just don't know yet if either defense has really been tested the last couple weeks. We'll see.
Better drops, my 4-year-old in the backyard I sent you video of last night, or Drew Pine?
I think Locke has a slightly better release, but it's up in the air. I don't know for sure.
Debatable. Definitely debatable. All right,
when he throws with one hand, I think Locke has him, but I think the two-handed throw with the big ball is a little challenging now.
It hurts your accuracy and the spiral of possibilities, definitely. All right, 800-239-9569. You want to get into the show today. 205-834-9450. Stanford Steve, 7:30, he'll give us his picks. He also in Baton Rouge. He'll give us a feel, give us the vibe. Booger McFarland's going to move us at 9:30. We'll talk about that live Tiger. He's experienced it. He's been there with it. The odd part about it is, Greg, LSU fans are not happy about this. And I don't know. I didn't know the whole backstory, all of it. You'd have thought they would. They're not because it's a bit of a political move. And it's not Mike the Tiger from across the street. So even this one that you would think would be great for LSU fans, is coming with a little bit of pushback. And then Bruce Pearl, Auburn head basketball coach at 8 a.m. We'll recap massive win from a couple of nights ago and just kind of preview his team's season coming up because it looked pretty good the other night. And what does he think about what he learned moving forward, what his team potentially is going to be like then. So we'll get to your feedback. We'll go Max Ball. We got a lot of games to talk about. Bama, LSU going to be one of the big ones that we'll spend a ton of time on. And as Greg mentioned, DJ Lagway, some of these injury reports, very interesting. Questionable for Lagway. How much could he give Florida if he actually played? You look at Ole Miss. Was it 24 players we said yesterday that are on the injury report? A lot of those questionable, a lot of those doubtful that are going to be impactful. Outside of Trey Harris, who was the one that you saw, Greg, that you said to yourself, if he doesn't go, that would concern me the most if I were an Ole Miss fan?
Watkins. Jordan Watkins.
Especially if it's Harris and Watkins. Yeah,
correct, because they play the same position. I mean, that's the challenge. If they didn't play the same position, and I'm not talking like wide receiver, I'm talking that actual position on the right side of the formation. Like they play the same exact spot. So that's a little bit of an issue. Watkins upgraded from doubtful to questionable yesterday, which is super encouraging. Trey Harris, I'm beginning to believe that it's unlikely we see him this weekend. It sounds like there might have been something re-aggravated. What does that mean? I don't know. I have no idea. But sounds like something might have been re-aggravated this weekend or this week, and maybe it's just not in the cards. But I hope to get a positive diagnosis today on that. But usually going from doubtful to playing is unlikely on the day before the game. But obviously going to evaluate this injury report from yesterday. I don't know if it necessarily tells the whole story. I do think Jeremy James being up, their offensive lineman, is a big story potentially. Has not been available very much this year, and their offensive line, we know this, has struggled at times. And then I also think that the possibility of Jaden Williams, their starting left tackle, coming into the season and play the first few games, him potentially being back is significant as well. So all that worth acknowledging, all that worth watching, but the offensive line, there's two guys up there that could have an impact as well.
All right, so we got that to get to. They're using some different guys in different ways, too. Saw Eli Acker putting a different number on lineup at tight end a little bit. So trying to up the physicality some there in Oxford to get prepared for one of the more physical football teams that they are going to face this weekend. That'll be the Georgia Bulldogs. We'll get to all of them.
I don't mean to like be facetious here, like be punny, because this is not intended to be punny. But do you think a Tiger can change his stripes? Like, can you go from being a team that is not overly physical to a team that is physical in a span of one off season? I really am curious about this.
I think you can. I think you can up the ante on it a pretty good amount. Let's talk about that on the other side. The personality of Ole Miss, the makeup, is it different? I'll tell you this: you'll feel different if you're walking around with a gift from Bromberg that somebody bought you, though.
Well, that's right. You got a little pep in your step if you go to Bromberg's and get things taken care of the way you need to get them taken care of. Look, the holiday season's quickly approaching. I have the trifecta coming up: anniversary, wife's birthday, and Christmas, all in the span of a month or a couple months. So the trifecta is approaching quickly. I've already been in conversation with wonderful salespeople at Bromberg's. They are helping me out. They're giving me ideas, and I would kind of be lost without them, if I'm going to be completely honest. So really grateful to know that right down the street from me, we have a place that sets the standard in fine jewelry, watches, giftware, and the best in customer service. Go and check them out and enjoy that luxury shopping experience that you'll only find at Bromberg's in Mountain Brook Village and the Summit, or you can go online at brombergs.com.
Great question in via Twitter quickly from Jody. Is Atco Cubelic excited to be calling a trinket game this weekend as OU and Mizzou play for the Peace Pipe? I'm going to tell you this, Jody, and I was surprised. And I'm not going to tell you who I talked to specifically about this. There is some confusion about where it is. So we have a trinket game with
a missing
seems really good.
Trinket.
Potentially lost trinket.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody needs to get on that. I don't know who. I don't know how. But apparently, I mean, like the Tennessee-Kentucky deal, like we know the whole story behind that with the accident, and it's probably not going to come back publicly, the whole thing. But no one seems to know where this is. Also, did not know that this was something that was started by, it's called like the Missouri 7 or the Super 7. It's like this group of students.
Is that a lottery?
I think it's a high school playoff system. But they apparently these Missouri students, and they do something, I don't know if it's SGA or around campus, whatever it is. They're the ones that first got this thing going. But I don't believe that we're just going to like run this thing out at the end of the game and I'm going to hand it to the winning coach. Like it's not going to happen that way. So
I think you should do the thing like they do at bowl games where they make you go and like do the whole post.
Yeah, give you the card, read the card, and do the post game celebration.
Introduce the CEO.
I am terrible at those, by the way. Usually it's the CEO of the bowl game and then the president or CEO of the sponsor. I usually get those two backwards. I'm like, here's Joe Capoto, CEO of Cubulus, and he's the other guy.
Outside of like Reese Davis, like tell me, it's not like you practice them once a year. It's not like there's like a lot of practice. It's not like you can like go and rehearse and go and like practice that. Like that's not something that's not a skill set that's ever going to be developed. So I don't think there's anything to be ashamed of if you can't improve in that area.
Doesn't mean that I don't want to be great at it, Craig. I'm still going to try.
I'm just saying, give yourself a little grace.
I'm striving for greatness here. So
I'm great for
I need to know my CEOs and my presidents and my bowl chairmen.
You have a tendency to rub elbows with the highbrow, so I just figured you'd be very comfortable introducing
it's definitely my nature.
And interviewing those that come from a silver spoon situation.
All right. When we come back, we'll have that conversation about. And I'm gonna be honest with you. When you first said that, I really thought you were talking about the live tiger at LSU. But either way, Ole Miss.
Oh,
can the DNA of a team
get to that.
change?
We'll get back to that too.
Oh yeah, in one off season. We'll answer that question right after this on Jocks 94.5. Again, McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. It is Friday, November 8th on Jocks 94.5. Search us on YouTube. You can watch live every day. Jocks 945. Listen online, jocksfm.com. Tell your home smart speaker to enable the Jock skill. You can always tune in that way. Before we move on, talk about this Ole Miss football team, Ole Miss, Georgia. Greg going to be on the call for that one. In the Grove, over in Oxford. Should be a massive scene. Should be a fun environment. And Georgia has their holes. They have their issues. We've talked about some of the warts on that football team right now, some of the dents inside that football team and what they try to do. But Ole Miss looks like they've corrected a lot of theirs. To what extent? To what extent can you correct those type of things? If you're trying to protect and create a new living system for you, Gusty Goulas and the Gusty Goulas Group can help. And they want to help get you into a new home. They want to help you get into the home of your dreams. Call 205-542-1996, Gusty Goulas Group, or go to gustygoulasgroup.com. You'll see over 835-star reviews. He's going to market before you list with them. He knows when the buyers and sellers are ready to go and what inventory is going to be available. Serves more than 3,000 home buyers and sellers in the greater Birmingham area. Gusty Goulas Group, also brokered by eXp Realty, recognized both nationally and locally as Greater Birmingham, Alabama's #1 team in homes sold. 205-542-1996, or go to gustygoulasgroup.com today and start packing. Can a team completely change their DNA in one off season? No, I don't believe they can. But I think you can improve it, and I think you can help mask a lot of it if it was very problematic. And I do think you can change large portions of it. I think that's very possible. I don't think you really find out how much that changes until you hit adversity, though, Greg. And I'm not going to say that that's the sole reason Ole Miss has lost the games they have this year. But I do think that in times like this weekend, and then if they were to drop this game, what it looks like the rest of the season is when you really begin to find out how different the culture, the attitude is. Just to the physicality portion of that, I think you just get different style players that play a different style of football. And they have been able to find that. Defensive line, linebacker. I also think that getting a lot of guys that have already played high-level football that may already be acclimated to it, especially at game speed, is going to help you be able to do that. But not in one off season can you completely change who you are and what you are. Like that DNA reset cannot happen in one off season.
I'm kind of in the same mode there, because I think Ole Miss is one of those teams that really wants to be the tough guy. And I believe that they've added pieces to the puzzle that have improved them in that area. But I do think this is going to require a different level of toughness. It's going to require a different level of strain than what we've seen from them with regularity over the last couple of years. Now, I'm not saying they don't have good players. I think they do have good players. They've always had good players. Ole Miss has really, really good players. But they're not players that have been overwhelmingly physical, which to me is kind of crazy when you think about it. But then again, I mean, it goes back to the jersey color, powder blue.
That's definitely it.
That's what it is. Age-old jersey color debate. But all joking aside, I just think that this team has been very much RPO-based. A team that is going to emphasize quarterback and wide receiver play. A team that is going to try to win on the perimeter. I know that they've run the ball with success, but they've run the ball with smoke and mirrors. They're not running it against 8-man boxes and saying, come get it. You know what I mean? It's just a different team than the teams that are typically known as being super physical. Now, Tennessee's super physical. That's what I have a hard time with. Like, why is the identity at Ole Miss different than the identity at Tennessee? That just doesn't make any sense to me.
But I don't think that's Tennessee's true identity as far as their foundation. I think they made an emphasis in the offseason to go improve it, and they did. You could also make the argument that Tennessee's been that before in their history. Has Ole Miss? Rarely. I mean, how many Ole Miss football teams that you played against or you watched or I played against, I watched that, the backbone of the team was physicality?
Ole Miss was usually one of the, I don't want to say softer teams on the schedule, because that's not entirely true. I played against Greg Hardy, and he was a handful. I played against Patrick Willis. He was a real handful. So they've definitely had individuals, but across the board, it has not been a team that is overwhelmingly physical. But the thing that's amazing to me is that Ole Miss, you would think, like when you play Mississippi State, I mean, they're drawn from the same talent pool, right? Like Mississippi State and Ole Miss have typically drawn from the same talent pool. You play Mississippi State, it was a 4-quarter dogfight, and it was a war. I mean, the most physical team on the schedule, maybe outside of LSU. When we played Mississippi State, it was brutal game. I mean, a multiple chin strap, the big physical, want to fight you, cheap shots, like loved playing. I mean, they were just a fun team to play against. I mean, they were not a pretty bunch by any stretch, but they wanted to fight, and I respect teams like that. So that's what I can't quite figure out is that Mississippi State has always been crazy physical, and Ole Miss just hasn't been. And I don't know.
It's always
if
been who they are, though. It's always been their personality. It's always been how they've made their money. How they've always built it that way. And I don't just think it's you have to be Jeffrey Simmons to be that. That's not necessarily what it's always been. It's always been more of a mentality because the recruiting has always been they've been the ones that were considered to be a little bit under-recruited and, didn't go for the flash and the glamour of the glitz. You're like, we're going to take the kid that we know will thump you, and we'll develop him into something a little bit later, and that's kind of what it's going to be. So some of this stuff that we're talking about is created over decades, not an off-season, and it's just it's who you are. And that I think it goes a little bit further than just that. I mean, who are your fans? Who are your supporters? Who are your fellow students? Who are your professors? Who are your boosters? I mean, I think that's a lot of it.
Well, do we unfairly characterize because they have fancy tailgates? Like, that's my question. Like, I really think that there's some of that factors into the perception of Ole Miss because while I think they have improved this year, and that's part of why I wanted to get to this conversation because I think they have improved in those areas this year. But I don't know if I'm ever going to allow myself to view them through the same lens as I'll view a team like Georgia or as I'll view a team like Mississippi State or A&M. You know what I mean? Like I don't think I can get there because I've walked through the Grove. You know what I'm saying?
I don't think it's a fancy tailgate, Greg. I think it's that a lot of people talk about the fancy tailgates before they talk about how they're going to push you around the line of scrimmage. You don't think Auburn's got fancy tailgates? I've seen some of the tailgates at Tuscaloosa. You ever been in a cockaboose in Columbia? Pretty damn
those
fancy.
Aren't fancy. Don't compare. Don't say those are fancy.
I'm just saying, like every school in this league got fancy tailgates. It's just you also got some that are out there, like the fancy ones set up in their parking lot space that they pay all the money for, and then the other people are on the 40-degree slope, dirt hill over to the side that they've been, parking there for 42 years. Their grandpappy brought them to the first game. Like we've all got fancy tailgates. It's just not a lot of us walk around puffing our chest out about how fancy our tailgates are. And because I think a lot of us would care more about, okay, are we going to be able to run the football today? Are we going to be able to stop the run today? Will we knock that team's helmet off? That's what we have craved more than, who's bringing the pigs in the blanket. Because we didn't really give an ass about that. I'm just telling you, like this happens over 100+ years. This doesn't happen in one off season. And so when your culture, your demeanor, your attitude, your DNA, when that's what it's been built to be, then yeah, it's hard to get away from that and not be that. And I think it's harder today because it's just it's not talked about the same way. But when you played, even when I played, the people that you talked to that loved your football teams, the expectation was that you were going to go out there and try to hurt somebody and you were going to knock somebody down. I mean, that's the expectation was, don't come by for, the crepes and strawberries after the game. The expectation was if we don't lay it on the line today, like that's a problem. And so I just think that it's more of an attitude of a lot of people, not just the coaches or the players or anything like that. So I think it's getting closer. I think it's improved. There's no doubt about that. And I know a lot of people that listen to our show aren't going to like this. I think Pete Golding's had a lot to do with it. And
don't you say that.
Those people, Greg, can say whatever they want. I would invite them to go look at the top 5 defensive statistical categories at about 8 different stats, and then you can.
I was told that he can't
then.
coach, so I don't know what you're talking about. That's what I was told.
Against who? Schedule soft. I ain't played nobody. So, all right, we got to get to a break. Stanford Steve is on the other side. He's going to give us his picks of this game. We'll ask him about that one. And maybe an idea for Coach Saban this weekend that absolutely has to happen. As we move on through football season, the weather cools. John, can you call Stanford, please, and tell him he didn't get canceled? He's texting me right now. Your HVAC system is ready for the cold weather on the way. Long-term reliability, Train Home Comfort System is your answer. To give you peace of mind right now, you can receive up to a 10-year warranty on parts and labor with select Train Comfort Systems. To learn more, visit train.com. Stanford Steve next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. It is 7:37 a.m. Friday, November 8th on Jocks 94.5 and GMAC. Stanford Steve of College Game Day, Sports Dinner with SVP, joins us every Friday thanks to our friends at Atlas Senior Living.
Yeah, Atlas Senior Living is the very best. When it comes to senior living communities, you'll see what we're talking about. Just go online, atlasseniorliving.com. You'll see exactly what we're talking about. And right now, if you go to their website, you can click on the football banner and join their pool, Pick'em Pool, where they can win $200 in Amazon gift cards, or you can also win $1,000 if you win the season-long picks. Want to give a shout out to Verena Bradbury from Legacy Reserve Fairview Park in Simpsonville, South Carolina. And want to give a shout out to the public pool winners, Bob DeLuca and William Freeman. Go to atlasseniorliving.com to learn more and join that pick'em pool. Steve, what's going on, my friend? How are you?
Nothing. I just, Cole goes up north and you go to the East Coast, and in the time zone, you guys forget how to tell time, I wonder. Just curious. I know you guys are on a type of land. But you're
no block radios in the hotel rooms.
You'll appreciate that we talked about whether or not a team can go from soft to tough in an off season. I mean, I feel like that's warranting a slide. I mean, I think that of all things, that would be something that you would be respectful of.
Okay.
But that's fine. Let's start with one that I am curious to get your take on. Like, I think there's a lot of people that are suggesting, angry. Oh, I'm mad. We played bad last week. We're gonna bounce back. And we've already saw earlier this year, like, that's not really as much of a factor anymore. So, like, I like Florida getting a lot of points this weekend. I like Washington getting a bunch of points against Penn State. Like, this whole, we're bouncing back. We're mad. We lost. We're mad. I don't believe in it. So would you fade any of these teams that are kind of carrying that moniker of, they're going to bounce back?
I totally get where you're coming. I think the mentality of kids has changed. I think the mentality of coaches has changed, where it's just, that anger that you used to hear about. It's more about, hey man, we gotta self-assess things here and get ourselves right. So I understand what you're saying. I the one I looked at, it sounds like Haynes King's going to come back for Georgia Tech. I think that's another sleepy spot for Miami. The defense has been, giving up stuff left and right. An unbelievably bad beat if you had Duke last week, up double digits in the second half. But I think Haynes King and that offense, the way he can run it, they can keep the ball away from Miami, and Georgia Tech with all those shifts and pre-snap stuff. I think they confuse Miami defensively, and most importantly, keep Cam Ward off the field, because that's what you got to do. I mean, he's just been incredible in the spots that he's gotten Miami out of. But yeah, Florida is just about the quarterback position. I mean, you know that, Greg. I mean, this kid's first true road start. He's not going to Harvard anymore for road games. I mean, he's going to Austin, Texas. So that's a big spot. I think Texas will do a good job to confuse him. It's just a matter of, are they going just quick 3 and outs? Are they able to get a couple first downs and keep Quinn off the field? Because I want to see Quinn throw the ball down the field. It feels like we haven't seen that a couple times during the Oklahoma game, a couple times during the Georgia game. But that feels like it's been a lost art from their offense. So I understand where you're coming from. And I would love to see Washington hang around after being in State College and hear about the whiteout left and right, and me basically yelling at students and telling them, if the whiteout is so great, then use it for a noon game, because you never win big games. And they didn't like that much.
Wow.
But they were super fired up for their whiteout, I'll tell you that.
There's a rumor circulating that you guys will have a dedicated segment, since you're in Baton Rouge, to this live tiger that is reappearing somehow inside the stadium, with former LSU and former Alabama head coach Nick Saban in a silky tiger stripe blue Joe Exotic button down. Can you confirm or deny said rumor?
First off, have you guys done Supper Club in Baton Rouge?
No. Don't know what that is.
We don't do.
I did receive a lifetime ban from the Supper Club in Auburn.
This will be shocking, but like, not all of us have game days budget when we go on the road, and not all of us have the fanciest freaking experience ever on the road. Some of us stay at Town Place Suites and grind our way through the season
with decaf only in the room.
Unceremoniously grind our way through the season. Not all of us get like this star-studded treatment with private jets and all this other stuff. Like, some of us grind.
I asked the question, all right, and I'm grinding.
And that's our answer.
Okay?
So you take your soft game day behind back to your studio, your remote studio, all right? I don't want to hear about it. Like, some of us are gamers and some of us grind, and I don't want to hear it.
Hey, Steve, this coming from the epitome of the country club crew that our college football team has is amazing right now. I just want everybody to know that.
I'm the epitome of the country club crew?
You're on that crew.
Of the country club crew?
Just saying.
You're high end.
I mean,
man.
we definitely have some memberships on the crew. There are definitely a few memberships. I'd be lying. If there weren't a couple memberships. That is 100% accurate. But there is not one private jet associated with our crew, nor is there any fanciness. Like, we're grinders.
Okay. No, you guys will love this. So we're at Supper Club last night. You guys know Jeff Brown, producer at ESPN, and he's handling all the ops now. He's the managing producer of Game Day. And so this Tiger talk about the governor wanting a live tiger back in the stadium, the whole 9 yards, all the stuff that Greg loves to talk about. And the governor of Louisiana is at Supper Club next to us, and Jeff Brown ends up sitting down with him and just hashing out an idea about how to get the tiger to the game day set. And Jeff's just sitting there like, I did not envision waking up and sitting down with the governor of Louisiana to talk about a live tiger to come to game day. And I'm like, man, that's what happened. You come to Louisiana, that's how plans happen, man. It's amazing how things get done in this state. But I do not think, of all the things that Coach Saban has put on, Cole, I do not think he will be repping the Tiger King shirt, knowing what that brings to the table and bringing back. It's funny, like, Cole, you sent that. I showed people at the table, and it just got back to talking about how bad COVID was and how fast we all watched that terrible show. Seriously, it was a tough talk at the table. Oh man, those were bad times.
Well, Saban has surprised us a couple of times, knowing what a couple shows are and things that he's watched. Do you think he has any idea what it is? Does he know who Joe Exotic is?
No, I don't
think so.
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
We're going to find out in our meeting in a bit here, though. For sure.
We'll confirm that later. But let's get to that game, the one that we're referencing outside of the games around it. But the game in it, you know my feelings on LSU's offense. We've talked about it, both the lack of desire to run the football, the quarterback handing the ball to the other team a fair amount. You know some of Bama's struggles on defense over the course of this year. What has to happen for LSU offensively if they're going to knock off Alabama Saturday night?
I believe it's consistency. Went to practice yesterday. I had never been to a Brian Kelly practice. I was surprised how loose it was. They're confident, but the idea of consistency and seeing what that offensive line can provide, right? I like Alabama. Talking to Nick this season, like those are all program guys that are playing for Bama this year up front. Guys that have been around for a while, and they've improved a lot. I just wonder if there's that difference maker, that guy that on a big third down that can make a difference when you talk about going against that offensive line for LSU. So the idea of running the ball, keeping Milroe off the field, and Nussar not throwing the ball to the other team, as you said, I think it's huge. Nick talked about for the LSU game last year, they implemented, more stuff off the bye week for Jalen to get loose in the run game. He talked about the same thing, doing the same thing, going in the SEC championship last year against Georgia and making that more of a focal point of the offense. So I think LSU expects to see that. And then just watching the idea of the Alabama QB run game, it's more structured, right? It's more designed for Jalen. Whereas when you talk to, LSU about what happened against A&M, that was more of a real dual threat, where it was a ride and decide and there was reads for the quarterback, and it happens that much faster. And then when momentum's happening, your mistakes are magnified on the road in an atmosphere that's going bonkers. So to me, it comes down to LSU's offense being consistent, moving the chains, and keeping Milroe and the Bama offense off the field.
Would you lay the points? It's up to 3.
I would not. When I go back and watch, Jalen on the road between, MAs, bad reads, and snap issues, I think it was 2 or 3 that the snap count wasn't supposed to be what it was. And, the awareness in the Vanderbilt game of that sack fumble, like I just haven't seen Jalen do it this year on the road in this circumstance. And we know what this stadium is on a Saturday night. So I can't believe I'm saying it. But if you ask me who to trust more at the quarterback position, I would take Nussmeier. And I don't feel great, but it was a question asked to me yesterday on a radio show here, and that's what I said. And with all that entails, I do lean LSU. It's not a play for me. I just think there's too much at stake, and not knowing what the quarterbacks are going to bring to the table. But that's what I would say when asked that question.
Give me one good lock this weekend. One lock. Colorado, Texas Tech over.
Ooh, that's a good one. I mean, Greg, you're the best at looking at resumes. Have you looked at Texas Tech's resume? I mean, you don't know what they're going to like. You don't
Colorado's
going to
name their score. Like Colorado's going to name their score. I mean, I think if you look at Texas Tech's resume, it is one of the more fascinating resumes in the country.
What do you guys think Gibbs in South Carolina, Vandy?
South Carolina's too athletic and too good up front to allow Diego Pavia to do anything. I think South Carolina wins that game comfortably.
Whoa, do anything?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do anything.
Don't you doubt Diego that way.
I love Diego.
They'll get some because they got that quick downhill run game with Alexander, and South Carolina's front's going to move. They'll pop a couple, and they'll get Dylan Stewart to be too aggressive or Kennard to be too aggressive, and he'll get an option on the perimeter or something like that, or they'll get a throwback without keeping backside contained. But I don't see them consistently moving the ball. No. But I do think Vanderbilt's defense is they got a little more bite than some people believe, and Vanderbilt might have a tough time moving that football. The difference to me, if Lenore Sellers plays a clean game, don't put the ball on the ground, don't give the ball away, I think South Carolina's fine in that one.
Yeah, and then I don't see Missouri winning if Drew Pine has to start. I know it's Oklahoma. I know how bad they are, but I
they're
just
a little
don't
better
see
than they were.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like Oklahoma, I mean, knowing what's how pressing things are in Norman, I expect them to play well at Missouri, and just what we've seen from Drew Pine is not that good.
When you're playing for a peace pipe, how do you not play well? Is my question.
I don't know. He went to Stanford, so like peace pipes were everywhere.
Did you guys have a saxophone game?
No.
Did you know Greg was first chair in the saxophone?
6th grade.
What?
Yep.
Wow.
That was right there.
We need Mr. McDonough to get that news. Make sure we get that to McDonough. That's got to come
Unlike you guys, I strive for excellence in everything I decide to go into. And if it's saxophone in 6th grade and mandatory saxophone class or band, you had to choose band or drama. There are more good-looking girls in the band. I went band. It's just the way it went. Pretty simple decision.
Hey.
6th grade. I get mines. You guys are haters.
Why didn't you take home economics then?
Nice.
If all you're doing with your class list was about attractive girls, like why weren't you on the dance team then? I mean,
too busy dominating.
You can't dance.
There was no ranking
dance.
system, and there was no
Also
ranking
fair.
system in home ec. It was a participation class. In band, at least, I was allowed to tell everybody, "Hey, you're looking up at me in the first chair." Steve, appreciate it, my friend. Have a great weekend, and look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Appreciate it, guys. Have a great weekend.
All right, Stanford Steve joining us here. Thanks to our friends at Atlas Senior Living, ATLASseniorliving.com. Go online to learn more. Join their pool by going and clicking on the football banner. They are the senior housing community that has locations throughout the Southeast, so they'll get their loved ones taken care of like their family. Check them out, atlasseniorliving.com. We'll be back, top 3 next. Mac and Cube in the morning.
All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Max Ball coming up the majority of the rest of the show. You do have a chance to get in 800-239-9569, 7:55 a.m. Friday, November 8th, right here on Jocks 94.5. I didn't want things to come across in too negative a light, GMAC, because I did want the fine folks here as the residents in Columbia, Missouri, to just understand. I mean, listen, if you want to know what we're dealing with here, look at that. If you were only here to help enjoy that, I would just give this to you. The Art of Earth Riesling that they left for me here.
It's made with organic grape. Can you fly that home?
As opposed to what grape? Like
non-organic?
Lab-made?
Artificial grapes?
Lab-grown grapes they're the new fad. Hydroponic grapes.
Now I got to make a decision of who I'm gifting this Art of Earth Riesling to this weekend, and make
Are
them
you
feel
checking
important.
a bag on the way home to bring it home?
I haven't checked a bag in years.
That feels like something Kat would really like.
I might have to just go FedEx that thing to the house, just so hopefully overnight that and make her feel better about me being gone.
The FedEx of that or that itself?
That's fair. All right, when we come back, we'll go ahead and hit our top three on the other side and get Max Ball going on a Friday right here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. All right, 8 a.m., Jocks 94.5, Auburn head basketball coach Bruce Pearl going to join us in just a few moments. We'll get to our top three after that. MAXX ball, rest of the way. When those conclude right here on Jocks 94.5, appreciate Stanford Steve being with us. Florida also announces yesterday, Greg, Billy Napier going to be back in 2025 based on where the administration is right now, president, athletic director, things of that nature. It's probably the right thing to do, but I just think based on the way the team is operated, I also think it's the right thing to do. Just to not go ahead and quickly hit that reset button. I realize the record is what it is. I realize people think it should be better. I get that. I understand that. But with what he has shown based on the injuries they've got, I think there's a case to be made that Billy Napier can still get that thing going in a way similar to what most people want in Gainesville. So I felt like this was the right move. I know I'm in the minority here, though.
Well, I think when you really look at everything nowadays, I'm really glad that cooler heads prevailed here. I think it's the right decision. People like to be mad. But tell me right now, tell me which coach you'd rather have. Tell me the slam dunk that's available that justifies writing a $26 million check to Billy Napier not to coach, and the guy that's going to come in who you're going to have to pay probably 8 figures to annually, plus the money that you're going to potentially have to pay the players. And you run the risk of losing what I think is a pretty good freshman sophomore crew, which I think has a chance to be pretty good next year. So I think it has a lot to do with everything. I think the timing makes sense too. Get out in front of this before he loses 3 in a row. I'm not saying he's going to, but I'm just saying the next 3 games are all extremely losable. This week, you're a 3-touchdown dog. You win this one, it's amazing. Incredible, but probably unlikely, right? You got LSU at home next week, which I think is a tough spot for LSU coming off the Bama game, so I think it's one that Florida can get. And then you have the final game against Ole Miss at home as well. So, we could fast forward here pretty quick, and they could be on a 3-game losing streak, so the timing makes sense as well.
Yeah, it's one that I know a lot of people are probably not going to say is a good idea or the best idea, but it's one that I think when you take a look at it, all of it, it could end up being a good thing for Florida. And with the administration where it is right now, it's just not. I don't think it's a move that you can make and have everything that alignment that we've talked about in a college athletic department. It'd be tough to get it to be there if you were to make that move this season. Not only that, you mentioned it a little bit earlier. DJ Lagway mentioned as questionable for this game. So is there maybe a way that he actually plays? If he does, what can he even give them in this game, G-Mac? Because you have to imagine at least the mobility would be limited.
Yes, I would think the mobility would be a non-starter. I really don't know. Someone's going to have to explain to me, what does a mobile quarterback look like with a hamstring? I don't know the answer to that. I was not a guy that ever had a hamstring injury. Not one time ever did I ever have a hamstring injury. I can't imagine you did either. So I don't know what that looks like. It being his left hamstring, does that impact how he throws it? Does it affect his accuracy? I don't know. I just don't know. This is an unfamiliar injury to me. So glad to know that it's a hamstring. Glad to know there's a possibility of him playing this weekend. I think he's going to play. But I just don't know if he's going to be able to give them what you want. So, and he's probably not had a ton of practice all week either. So are they almost better suited going with Warner and figuring out a way to get him comfortable and maybe challenge Texas through the air? I don't know.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought, because you go back and I would just, even less than just being a hamstring, quarterbacks that had mobility, that had lower extremity issues. I think the first one that we probably think about, Marshall, name escaping me. Why can't I think of it right now? Not Pennington, but after him, when he couldn't move around and his offensive linemen were carrying him down the field. Byron Leftwich. Leftwich. And we've seen mobile quarterbacks.
Harris. I was like, what?
Yeah, no. We've seen mobile quarterbacks at certain places that have kind of played with something that hampered that mobility. And obviously you just become a pocket guy, but then not being able to elude the rush and move in the pocket the way you normally would becomes an issue. Like you said, normal mechanics affecting velocity, accuracy, anything like that. he's not going to be himself either way. If it's a hamstring and you go down like that and you can't get up and walk off, I have had a hamstring injury in the off season, and it's a pain, man. It's just time. That's all it is. It's time. It has to heal, and it takes a long time to heal. So I have a feeling that the Vermont feelings are probably going to take a long time to heal as well, as Coach Bruce Pearl's basketball team put them on them 94-43 the other night. Bruce Pearl, the Auburn head basketball coach, joining us now on the Buyers Hotline. Coach, I have to feel like the majority of what you wanted from your team, specifically on the defensive end, you got in that first game. I realize you don't know a ton about them until they actually get out there and play. Where did your team exceed your expectations the most a couple nights ago against Vermont?
Well, thanks. Good to be with you guys this morning. I would say that probably the way we shot the ball. I mean, we made 16 threes, and we had a couple of guys, J.P. Pegues didn't miss his three. Janai made two as a center. And then, of course, Chad Baker and Denver Jones and Miles Kelly, all three of them went off and just knocked down shots like crazy. And so it had to be the fact that we shot it as well as we did.
When you look at where you're at, Coach, and the offseason and some of the veteran leadership that you have coming back and knowing what's coming up here right in front of you and the opportunity to play against a top-tier team, how does the veteran presence that you have help you prepare to take on some of these big non-conference opponents?
Well, I mean, the program has gotten to the point where Houston now thinks it's a big deal to play us, or Purdue is willing to come to Birmingham and have us go back to Indianapolis next year. And the reason was, when we played Indiana Hoosiers and Atlanta beat them by about 4 touchdowns last year, that elevated our status in the Hoosier State. And when we began scheduling, the fact that they think Auburn is an attractive game in Indianapolis is a great place to be in. So it's just a function of selling out Neville Arena. It's a function of our fans traveling with us and having us become a top 25 program. It allows you to play this kind of schedule. The league being so elevated, so many of the other teams in our league being so good and so competitive. And so therefore we're taking advantage of all that by now having a non-conference schedule where Auburn basketball is playing against the best college basketball programs in America.
And you're going to get Houston Saturday night. Bruce Pearl, Auburn head basketball coach, with us on the Buyers Right Hotline, 8:30 on ESPNU. And I feel like there's one question that has to be answered going into playing that team if you're even going to be competitive, and it's you better be pretty rugged. You better be pretty physical on both ends of the floor to at least be able to manage what Houston's going to do to you. And it's not a lot of tape that we have on this particular season, Coach, but I feel like we do know that your team's going to have that to be able to go match up against how Houston's going to present itself Saturday night.
Yes, no doubt. And it's certainly easier said than done. Look, this is a matchup of the two top teams in college basketball as far as Ken Palm is concerned. They're 1 and we're 2, at least right now. I mean, obviously it's extremely early. But, two really good defensive teams. I think the biggest difference is, in our top 10 guys, we have 5 new guys. Although we get some great veterans returning, we still have 5 new players in our top 10. And Houston returns literally 80%, 4 starters, their entire bench. This is, I look at right now the 3 best teams in college basketball in my mind are Duke and Houston and Alabama. And we're trying to get there. Now we'll see. On the road at Houston, it'll be as tough. Those 3 games. By the way, we play Houston, Alabama, and Duke on the road this year. So there can't be 3 tougher games on anybody's schedule than those 3. I mean, there's not a neutral site NCAA tournament game, even in the Final Four, that's more difficult than playing on the road at those 3 schools. And we've got them all on our schedule. And so we're going to find out. And, we're excited about the challenge. And you're right. It's going to be a rock fight. Houston is one of the most physical teams in college basketball. They have been that way. That's their culture, and they pride themselves on that.
Coach, last year, it was a huge storyline, a huge topic. And I know you're proud of the depth that you've been able to create again this year. How would you say your depth is at the moment? Is it comparable to last year? Is it not quite as much as last year? Are you anticipating?
Absolutely as good as last year. Absolutely. That's our strength again, that we have 10 or 11 guys that can play. We are deep. We got some versatility. And I'm playing 10 guys double-digit minutes. Look, they're recruited that way. One of the greatest stories I get to tell all the time is that Jabari Smith averaged 27.5 minutes at Auburn and was the third pick in the NBA draft. His team won. He made more threes than any 6'10" player freshman in the history of college basketball. He shared it. And as a result, when he was on the floor, he looked good. Didn't have to play 32, 33, 34 every night, which can take a beating on you, can wear on you at the end of games and at the end of the season. So, yep, our depth is absolutely one of our greatest strengths.
Coach, I heard Bruce Pearl with us in the Buyers Right Hotline, Auburn head basketball coach. I heard some of the things that you said about Miles Kelly after the game, very complimentary of what he is as a three-point shooter. Leads us to believe that this should be similar to the role you expect him to have moving forward the rest of this season. Did it change after one game, how you may utilize him, how he impact your team throughout the course of this year?
No, I don't think so. I do think that there were 4 or 5 shots that were like, shots, like, like, really? But I think when you've got a great shooter like that, we've got some great shooters, but it'd be hard to say that anybody on our team is a better shooter than Miles, and so therefore he's going to take some hush shots. Like, you don't want one of your worst shooters to take any hush shots. And so we're going to have to wrap our arms around some of that when he does it, and hopefully he makes half of his hush shots. Because if you miss 80% of your hush shots, they're no longer a hush shot; they're a bad shot.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, listen, we appreciate the time. Wanted to catch up with you here earlier in the season, since you usually give us a hard time for not having you on until February. So we wanted to make sure we got you in early because it was fun watching your team on the court the other night, and it's gonna be fun watching you guys Saturday night against Houston as well.
Well, you guys know I'm always available, and we're excited about coming up to Birmingham to play Purdue. And we hope we think we got a great turnout so far. I think the game's almost sold out, and that would be a great environment. And of course, with the renovations to Legacy Arena that have been taking place, that is hopefully going to be a consistent, first round or second round regional site. And bring the NCAA tournament back to Birmingham on a regular basis. That'd be pretty cool.
I don't think you have to worry about it, Coach. I've had more Auburn fans around Birmingham ask me about that event, that game, and how excited they are for it. I think it's going to be – and that's a great place to watch a basketball game now. They did an excellent job. So we're looking forward to it,
sir.
And looking forward to having you back again soon. Good luck this weekend.
Okay, guys. Thank you. War Eagle.
War Eagle. Thanks, Coach. Bruce Pearl joining us on the Buyers Right Hotline. Tough matchup Saturday night, GMAC, but we'll find out quick what a lot of these teams are. And I know it changes through the course of a basketball season. But getting off to the start that Auburn did, a lot to be excited about going to play Kelvin Sampson's Bun Saturday night.
Yeah, especially listening. And I don't know a lot about Vermont basketball, but I know that when I fill out my bracket in March pretty regularly, Vermont's in there as a 15 or 16 or a 14 seed. So clearly a team that's one of the top teams in their conference, and to make mincemeat of a team that has some pride and that has had some success, I think is pretty important. So I think it's all good. I think it's exciting, and I think it'll be interesting to see as we continue to move forward.
It is pretty wild what Coach Pearl said. KenPom number 1, number 2, the Torvik 1 and 3. I hadn't seen the tape on the Torvik. I haven't got the Rubik's Cubelic professors in on this one.
Not familiar.
You're not in on the Torvik either?
Don't know what it is.
John, Torvik pole, Torvik relic.
Isn't that the race car driver, Kevin Torvik?
Exactly. Yes, that's it. Yeah, or the old fullback for Purdue back in the day, I think. All right, so basketball talk for the day is probably wrapped up because we're going to go top 3, then MAXX ball. On the other side, first, I'll tell you about your CBD store. You need better night's sleep? you need to wake up, feel refreshed, if you need focus throughout the course of your day, your CBD store has products that can help you with that. You want to drop a little bit of weight? The Trim by SunMed on the shelves now at the largest brick-and-mortar CBD retailer in the world. First company to have USDA-certified organic oil supplements. They've got the stamp seal on those products, so they're going to meet and achieve a certain set of standards. Arthritis, anxiety for you, your pet, skincare for you, that they're going to be able to help you with at your CBD store. Multiple products to help you at multiple locations. Highway 280 by Bailey Brothers, 150 by the Cage in Cleaver. Trustful just off 459. Remember, your CBD store where good health hits home. All right, back on the other side, top three. Then we go MAXX ball next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. 8:19, Friday, November 8th, right here on Jocks 94.5. Stanford Steve brought up our game here, Oklahoma, Missouri. We'll discuss that when there's a lot of interesting little sort of nooks and crannies in the path of either of those teams being able to find a way to win this weekend. We've got Alabama, LSU preview coming up. We've got Ole Miss, Georgia preview coming up, Florida, Texas. We'll get to all of those. It is a little bit lighter nationally, GMAC. I mean, Georgia Tech can do some things to complicate it with Miami. Ohio State, obviously, we don't think that they're going to be threatened by Purdue. At least I don't. I don't know if you do. Don't know if Indiana has real problems with Michigan outside of that defensive front. So it doesn't feel like as heavy of a lift. Colorado, Texas Tech will be a fun game. It's not going to make the noise for a lot of folks, but doesn't feel like as heavy of a lift nationally for some of the top 10, top 15 outside of the Holy War, maybe, with BYU at Utah. 9:15 Saturday night, by the way, Central Time kick, which is great. But not as many maybe potential games of concern for those top-tier teams outside of the SEC.
No, the only tricky one I would say is probably the Holy War. I think BYU at Utah is tricky. I think BYU is a team that has been consistently underrated this year, but going on the road to a desperate team, and the only thing that's going to save Utah's season at this point is beating BYU. I mean, that's it. I mean, their season is not salvageable, but it becomes one of those scenarios where, hey, let's make a memory. We got an undefeated BYU team coming to us. Like, let's ruin their season. That's all they got. That's all they got left to look forward to. So it's been a disaster for Utah, their first season in the Big 12. Everything that could go wrong really has, but maybe the stars align one night and they figure it out. Better late than never, because I do think they're pretty good on defense still. They just have nothing offensively outside of Mekhi Bernard. That's about it. And if they can't throw it, then I don't anticipate them doing a whole lot against this BYU team.
All right, we get to it each and every day, usually a little bit earlier. Ran long with Stanford Steve, and then head coach Pearl wanted to get him in before that matchup with Houston Saturday night and off a big win Wednesday. It is our top three. Does not have to be sports. Sometimes is. Damian, what do we have on tap for our top three today?
Before we get to it, let me tell you about my buddy Ben Hedden of the B Ham Realty Group. If you think about selling your home, when it comes to selling, you only want excellence. Need to give my dog Ben a call today, 205-568-2705, or go to bhamrealtyco.com. If you're struggling to get your house sold because the markets are changing every single day, you need an expert that focuses at adapting at half the time to make sure you and your squad come out on top. That's Ben Hedden of the B Ham Realty Group. You can go to their website at bhamrealtyco.com or give them a call at 205-568-2705. Y'all know how we do it on Fridays, man. Who are the top three teams that should be on upset alert this weekend?
Oh, I forgot we do that every week.
Creative as always.
Rinse and repeat here. Texas State -9 at ULM. ULM, a team that brings it physically, that gives you a lot on defense. Jalen McLeod does have 7 picks this year, so that's possible. I would say Navy -3 at South Florida. Also one that I would be concerned about. I think Coach Golish's team is beginning to kind of find themselves a little bit more so than they did earlier in the season. And let's go UConn -7 here in Birmingham.
Hey.
1:30 ESPN Plus. Kitna coming off a massive game. Coach Dilfer's been telling us for a while that's a team that's close to finding itself. Maybe now they have, if they can make some tackles, which have been a little bit of an issue. Those are Coach Dilfer's words, not mine. UAB maybe gets that upset against UConn. That would be number 3 for me on our weekly upset alert teams, top 3.
Very nice. I'll put Iowa State on upset alert at Kansas. Narrow 3-point favorite there is Iowa State. Iowa State, I was kind of underwhelmed with what I saw last week from Iowa State. I think that Texas Tech might have exposed something with their passing attack. And Kansas, I think, has enough athleticism. They've lost a lot of close games this year, Kansas has. It feels like they're due. I'll put Army on upset alert. I just don't think Army's very good. Questions about whether or not their quarterback's available. North Texas is a handful. They got a lot of weapons. They got a lot of speed. Army is right now a 4-point favorite on the road in Denton, Texas. And then last one, I'm going to put Penn State on upset alert. Washington is a team whose pass rush, who can neutralize the pass rush of Penn State. They have quick passing attack. They can get the ball out. I think Penn State, there's perception that they can, crush the quarterback and Will Rogers, and they're going to just wear you out. I don't think so. I think Washington matches up pretty well. And Washington also is one of the best teams in the country in covering tight ends. They're the 4th best, allowing QBR of 23 when targeting tight ends in the country. They have a couple safeties that are good in coverage. Cam Fabiculanen's the main one, and he'll draw a tough matchup against what I think is probably the best tight end in the country. But I also think that this Washington team is well coached, and And I think Belichick will do a pretty good job of taking away by far the best weapon for Penn State. So I'll put Penn State on upset alert as well.
I got you. John?
Yeah, I would definitely look at Iowa State over Kansas. I don't know why they're such a low favorite, so I'm going to put them on upset alert because technically they're only a 3-point favorite, but they really should probably mollywop the Kansas Jayhawks. I guess technically Oklahoma needs to be on upset alert because they are favored against Missouri, even though I still not quite sure why. But sure, okay, fine. I will give that one too. Also, NC State is a 3-point favorite against Duke, so I guess they need to be on upset alert because I feel the wrong team is favored on that one. And yet one more, Arizona State, 2.5-point favorite over the Gus Bus and UCF.
Oh boy,
I think they need to be because, well, really they shouldn't be. But this is also the time when Gus finds a way, when everyone just writes him off, he messes around and catches the win. So Arizona, you should be able to take care of business, but don't take them lightly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you on that. NC State.
Just leave play calling alone. You made the switch. It worked. Just leave it alone.
It worked for him before.
That's all it is. Well, no, it didn't work before. That's when it started going south. Yeah. So just leave it alone. It worked last week, and then let it keep going.
Get out the way.
Oh, see, Auburn ball. I didn't realize that with Dillingham at the helm.
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, the teacher and the pupil. I got NC State on upset alert too. I kind of agree with you, John. I think the wrong team is favored in that situation with Duke because Duke did. I mean, Miami ended up getting it there at the end, but they gave Miami every bit of the fits that I didn't really think they would. I thought Miami would kind of just go out there and mop the floor with them, but they did in the end. But definitely not in the beginning. But I think Duke right now should actually win that ball game. I'm also going UConn too with UAB. If UAB can play like they did last week, and I mean, Coach Dilfer, he seemed confident. He kept saying, even during the midst of all those losses, that hey, this team hadn't lost anything. They're still coming into practice. They're having a good time, good showing. It just wasn't showing up on Saturdays, but they definitely showed it up last Saturday. And I'm with y'all on Texas Tech and Colorado, man. I think it's going to be a good ball game, but I wouldn't be surprised if Texas Tech starts to lay on them a good little bit, especially if they get a lead there and starts pounding away. But also, you still got to watch out for Shedeur Sanders and that boy Travis Hunter, man. If you ever want to solidify yourself in the Heisman Trophy candidacy, for sure, have a big game in a situation like this, especially with Colorado being as good as they are.
All right, there it is. Top 3 teams on upset alert coming up this weekend. So we need to get into some of the bigger games coming up this weekend. We will go MAXX ball on the other side. Continue breaking down games, get into some of the matchups that we have not discussed yet. You will have to wait for that. But one thing you never have to wait for, GMAC, is your dental care.
That's because Family Dental has you taken care of. They're the urgent care office where you can be seen the same day. 5 locations now to make it easy on you. Hoover, Fultondale, Homewood, and Alabaster. But they've just opened a spot in Trustful as well. They can get you in for immediate help if you have an emergency. They also have routine cleanings that include free teeth whitening. All ages are accepted. Most insurance plans are accepted. Call them at 874-9605. That's Family Dental, 874-9605.
All right, get to a break. Come back. MAXX Ball Friday next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Max Ball Friday coming at you now. Stanford Steve brought up our game here in Columbia, Missouri. GMAC, one that is interesting for, I think, reasons that people kind of just don't really believe or buy. Missouri not out of the playoff picture. That was one of the things that was great about the 12-team playoff. We were going to get teams like this that could still play their way in. If you tell me Missouri wins out, I'm not going to say that they're definitively not in. Also, not going to definitively say they are in. You would have a win against.
For you, they are probably not going to make it. They need some help, I think.
You said probably though, but they're not definitively.
No, that's
out.
what I'm saying. I wouldn't say definitively, but I think they need some help. And they need to look really good down the stretch.
100%. But that's the beauty of the 12-team. If you're looking for silver linings, is that teams like Missouri are not completely ruled out yet. So this game becomes important for them. They have not been as good defensively as I believe they thought they would, or I thought they would. Overly aggressive defensively, which sometimes against a team that's struggling on offense can be great. Other times it can give them free yards. And with a mobile quarterback, it can definitely come back to bite you a little bit. So they are going to continue to find different ways to run the football. Quarterback's going to be a big piece of it now with Joe John Finley at the helm. I do feel like they've gone back to some of the basics to try and help things. But it's going to be a tough task because this offensive line for Oklahoma still not playing great football. Don't know the status of Michael Tarquin at left tackle. May try to give it a go. So then you're playing a couple of youngsters, but I think you're getting better effort from like Eddie Pierre-Louis, true freshman guard. You've gotten better blocking from Bauer Sharp the last couple of weeks. Some of these guys have turned it up. There are minor rumblings of maybe a Deion Burks, GMAC, maybe a Petaway in the lineup for Oklahoma. Still, nice. I would say probably doubtful, bit of a long shot, but things may be coming together on that side of the football. And as you stated earlier, or maybe Stanford Steve stated, Drew Pine goes for this Missouri offense. It is difficult to find a lot of confidence in how they're going to move the ball. If that's the case against a defensive front that has wreaked havoc all season, it's tough to find your path for Missouri to get a win if that's going to be the case for them offensively.
Yes. I think that Missouri almost has to have – the thing about Drew Pine is, like, there was a time where he was not a massive liability. Now, let's not get it twisted. He's never been Johnny Manziel. But there was a time when he was not this off the mark. I wonder if his confidence just completely shattered. That's the impression I get, which is unfortunate. But there was a time where he played good, solid football. Like, I saw and called multiple games of Drew Pine in the past where he went out there and was competent. I don't know what's happened because the guy that's out there now looks nothing like the guy I saw 2 years ago at Notre Dame when he went on the road at Syracuse and played well. So I'll be curious to see, how they can maybe get him back on track. But is there any hope for Brady Cook possibly going or no?
Oh no, yeah. I think they're hopeful. We meet with them later this afternoon, but I think that they would love for him to give it a shot and give it a go. I think the circumstances, if he were able to, are still going to be difficult, and some things will be limited. But I definitely think they want to give him a shot. And back to Drew Pine for a minute, Greg. It's not really about maybe his ceiling. He was brought in to be exactly what he's been asked to be so far: a stopgap for a half, a game, a 2-game stretch, 2 series, whatever that was. A guy that's on his 5th year of college football, and you played the position. I can't explain how things could go from someone that could at least get in there and manage a game to now a guy that has trouble completing the most simple foundational routes that we see at any level of football. I mean, it's the wildest thing.
I can't really explain it. I know that, once you lose your confidence at quarterback, it's really tough to get it back. Even some of the most talented guys struggle and go through ruts and challenges. I mean, look at Carson Beck right now. Super talented guy, crazy talented guy. Has at times made some really, really bad decisions. Look at Jalen Milroe at times this year. There's been some times where he looks great and sometimes he doesn't look so good. In the last couple of weeks, he hasn't looked so good because I just don't know if he's playing with great confidence. Confidence is a really, really powerful tool when evaluating the quarterback position. It is the most important thing. And if you have a guy that's maybe searching a bit, it's hard to get back on track when live bullets are flying every single week at you. And that's what I just can't figure out, though, with Drew Pine, because there was a time where it wasn't that bad. And they desperately need him to revert back to that if they want to have any chance of making some noise here down the stretch. But
how do you get it back, Greg? How do you get it back? Can you?
I don't know.
Do you get it back?
You need a bad team to play against to kind of get you back feeling good about things.
This ain't the defense for it, is what you're saying, especially.
No, this will be tough. Tough sledding this weekend for sure. Doesn't
All
mean
right, I'm not going to pick it because I'm on it, but where are you going with Mizzou and Oklahoma this weekend?
Oklahoma big.
Big?
Yes.
All right, John, Oklahoma, Missouri, where are you going?
I would I got to go Oklahoma. I do think Missouri will make it okay, and I do think it'll be a respectable game, but especially if Brady Cook's not playing, I don't think Missouri has any chance of a shot.
I think okay. Damian, are you on board with this too? I'm going to be honest with you. I'm a little surprised because keep in mind we've seen a lot of struggles with the Oklahoma offense. It's not like that thing's been figured out. So this is interesting.
I'm going Oklahoma too.
Okay.
The reason why I think Oklahoma is playing for their coach.
Mm-hmm.
I think Oklahoma is, and I'm not saying that Missouri won't play for their coach either. I just don't think that their coach isn't coming under as much scrutiny as Oklahoma's coach is. So I think you're going to have a motivated Oklahoma team that looked a little bit better the last couple weeks. So we'll see. I mean, I'm not saying Oklahoma is all of a sudden, awesome. They're among the most disappointing teams in the sport, but I do think that you're going to have an inspired effort from them. And if things go sideways for Mizzou early, I could see him getting off the rails.
Well, we talk about Brady Cook. He's listed as questionable. Nate Noel may be the one that's, I don't want to say more important, just as important as Brady Cook. They need his juice in the stretch play. They need his juice in the run game. He can provide those explosive plays. And not that Marcus Carroll's not nice or, not that Tavares Jones, Jamal Roberts give you good reps, but Nate's a little bit different with his experience in it and just the explosiveness that he has. That's another big one for, this Missouri team that I feel like they really need to have. Mookie Cooper doubtful as well. So now you start really getting down the depth chart from a weapon standpoint if, say, the three of those are out. And you begin to wonder kind of how you're going to move the football on a consistent basis. So be an interesting game Saturday night, obviously here in Columbia, Missouri. All right, so outside the SEC, a game that we brought up a little bit earlier with Stanford Steve, Miami at Georgia Tech, 11 a.m. ESPN. Miami 9-0, Georgia Tech 5-4. Once again, status of an individual player probably pretty big here, Greg. If Haynes King is in, he can work some of the read, some of the fakes, the RPO game. His mobility can help you a little bit. I don't know how much it changes without him for you, but does Georgia Tech have the pieces to be able to pull this upset at home against Miami?
I think that they do have the pieces to do it. I just don't think they will. I don't think they can cover. And I don't think they can rush the passer. So it's great that, they're motivated and the Haynes King run game is going to be awesome. And, they're going to all of a sudden just flip the switch, but they can't defend this Miami offense. I mean, everyone keeps, I think this is such a trendy underdog situation. I don't see it. I really don't see it, to be honest with you. It doesn't mean that I don't think that Georgia Tech's not a good football team. Like, I like them. I think Buster will have a great plan. I think they'll score. But I don't think they're going to get a single stop in this game. I'm just not sure where that stop is going to come from. So it's hard for me to feel good about them getting off the field with Cam Ward and company. So I'm laying them in this game. I think it's a super comfortable Miami win.
I watched a little more Miami offense last night, and I tell you, one of the most impressive things in college football year is the controlled chaos in which Cam Ward operates. Because the situations that he finds him in would be utter meltdown moments for 95% of college quarterbacks. And he'll just take one quick step to the left, or he'll look to leave the pocket to the right. It's not there. he'll pop back to the left 2-3 steps, and then it's this sidearm throw across his body, not even looking past, and you're like, what? And then there it is. It's kind of like what Bruce Pearl was talking about, like shots. I mean, he's got some throws, and then you're like, oh, he was open. Wow, okay. And we're to the point now, Greg, where it was easy to say a couple of weeks ago, like, yeah, they're not going to be able to live that way. Like, that's not going to be consistent for them. But he's done it all year, and no one's been able to find a way to harm it or take advantage of it. He continues to complete passes that way and continues to score points. So, I mean, do you realize this Miami team has more 50-point games this season than any in the history of that program? I mean, think about the offenses that program's put on the field all time. And they have more 50-point games this year than they've ever had in the history of the program. Yeah. So it's like you said, they're going to score.
I think it's pretty impressive that they have more 50-point games this year. And I look at this, it's one thing if they can create some type of pass rush. It's also one thing if Georgia Tech's great against the run and one of the most improved run defenses in the country. The problem is, as a result of the way that they've altered their structure, as a result of how they've altered who they are, the personnel that they've gone out of their way to bring in, they have now become extremely vulnerable on the back end. And this is not the team that you want to mess around with and not be great at the line of scrimmage, rushing the quarterback and covering down in the back end. Plus, everyone seemingly wants to talk about and bury Mario, right? Mario got buried last year because of how he handled end-of-game situation against Georgia Tech. You don't think this is one that's been circled for Mario? You don't think this is one that's been circled for Miami in general? Absolutely it has, because they handed a victory to Georgia Tech last year on their home field. Like, you don't think they're fired up about this one? I think they're going to be as fired up for this one as they've been probably all season long to show just how different they are. So if you want to go next level, here's why I think this could happen this way this weekend. I also think the externals like that are a factor in their motivation.
Absolutely. Damian, you think, John, either of you think Georgia Tech gets this done?
I think it'll be a blowout.
All right, Miami.
If Haynes King is there, I think it'll probably look like the Duke game. Maybe not that lopsided. It'll probably be back and forth with Miami pulling out late. If Haynes King is not there, it'll look like the back half of the Duke game with just Miami putting it on them.
All right, we're going to move back into the SEC. On the other side, talk about some of the massive matchups in this conference coming up this weekend. Before we get to that, if you're looking to move out of your home into a new home, GMAC, who should you call?
It'd be our friends at Crocker Moving Services. They're a local company owned by an Iraq War veteran, Eric Crocker. Crocker believes in hiring movers you can trust to complete full background checks and run drug tests on every single employee. These are good guys, and you can trust them in your home. Whether you need your whole home packed up and moved, your company headquarters moved across country, or you just want them to come rearrange your living room, these guys got you covered. They also do deliveries for furniture that you've purchased need to get to your home. So call or visit them online today for a free quote. The website is crockermovingservices.com. That's crockermovingservices.com. Support your veterans by choosing Crocker Moving Services for your next move.
Also, tweeting into the show, at Mac and Cube. You can always be a part of the show there. Joe Higginbotham tweets in, Homewood versus Athens tonight. I got the Patriots in that matchup, so I'm not sure where you guys going, but I'll take Homewood.
Is Athens good? I don't know.
Doesn't matter.
I'll take Athens because Homewood's soft.
Wow.
Also, following on Melissa's tweets in, how about top three most uncomfortable sideline pregame interactions Cubelic's ever been involved in? I think we know number one. Speaking of number one, I will give you an update on that when we come back next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you guys tuning in. 8:50 Friday, November 8th, right here on Jocks 94.5. We were asked about my top 3 most uncomfortable pre-post-game interactions. I think most people would go to Tom Herman at number 1. I don't really think I could push back on that. And speaking of, Greg, there is one winless team in conference play in the American. Would you like to take a guess who that is?
Winless team in the American? That'd be FAU.
In conference play, they're 0-5, 2-7 on the season. They have 1 FBS win this season. They are one of 9 teams in college football that is still winless in conference play. So they go down 49-14 last night to ECU. It wasn't a strong performance. Not really sure that I have another way to discuss that one, but not great for FAU last night as they get blasted on the road. ECU with an interim head coach, 5-4 on the season. Caton Hauser, 17-22 for 343, 5 touchdown passes, no picks last night for ECU. That's a decent day.
I would say so, especially when they've turned it over with reckless abandon all year.
No doubt. So, all right, so they get that win. Coastal gets App last night, 38-24. Do you see our guy Grayson McCall was honored, introduced at the game?
I did not.
Yeah, he was back. The school tweeted it out.
Interesting.
Are you guys celebrating a guy that bailed on you?
Are you asking me?
I'm asking you personally. Any of you?
Given the circumstances of him having to retire medically, I think there's probably a little bit of sentimental, ness to that. The fact that, he left it all on the field, I suppose. So, yeah, I'd probably still celebrate it. I mean, he did provide Coastal Carolina with a brief glimpse of excitement after many, many years of not really being very relevant. So I'm okay with it.
All right. By the way, did not know that his tattoo game was as strong as it was. I don't know why, but I had no idea.
Really?
Until I saw the. You guys didn't know that?
No, didn't think he was the type.
Wait, I'm sorry. You didn't think he was the type?
No.
What? Okay. I'm going to share this from the Mac and Cube account, and so the folks can see what is we're talking about here, where he was being celebrated. All right, so the show just retweeted that, and I'll send that to you guys. You can check it out. It's strong. A lot going on. I'm not sure what a lot of it is. It looks like maybe some Star Wars stuff. John, you might know. I don't know what's going on there, but yeah, it's a lot. So anyway, Grayson McCall celebrated last night. Do they do the Clemson thing now, where they storm the field for every game?
I don't know.
They stormed the field last night.
I'm looking at the tattoo game. That's what I'm trying. That's all I care about at this moment.
Okay.
Let me take a peek.
We will move on to other games and
hang on.
Get other people.
I'm on the Grayson McCall tattoo game. He's got.
I just didn't know. That's all I'm saying. Exactly.
Full leg tat. Did not anticipate that.
It looks like the Rebel Alliance logo there on like the quad or something. I don't know what all that is, but it's. I mean, hey. He's committed. He's in. Give him credit for that.
He's got like something below his kneecap that looks like the a Reebok logo. I don't know. I don't know these things. These are all. I love a good tattoo. Just trying to
that's
interpret
the updated
tattoo.
Reebok logo, by the way, though. Not
Correct.
like the
New
old
school
like D Brown Reebok.
Yes.
No.
The new school.
Like not the Michael Chang Reebok. This is when they tried to rebrand themselves. It's not a great look.
That is accurate.
Okay. Back to Max Ball. Unless you have more on that. You have more on that?
No, I have nothing
good.
more to add. I just needed to see. I needed to see it for myself.
John, do you have an idea what it is?
I'm gonna guess lame.
Okay. We're gonna move on. Florida at Texas. G-Mac, you brought it up earlier. Said this may be the most physical team Texas has played this year. Quarterback's going to be huge here. If you get a little bit of DJ Lagway and he can be successful, maybe. I'm worried about Florida up front being able to manage Texas's defensive linebackers together with how they can add some pressures, do some different things, line guys up in different places. That's what I think will be most problematic for the Gators, because if you don't have that real balance, you try to lean too much on the run game early. Kwiatkowski's going to be able to stack up against that. I think there are aspects of this game, if Florida had full strength Lagway, that I would have been able to convince myself are going to be interesting. But without that, I don't know if I can. I do think this is going to be a good test for Texas's offense and their physicality. Can they be a group that pushes people around? We're going to find out in this game.
I think it's going to be a situation where Texas is going to get pushed around. I really do. I think you can tack the edges a little bit here. I like what I saw from Florida the last couple weeks running the football. I mean, starting really with the Tennessee game. If you can run it against Tennessee, I think you can run it against Texas. We're going to find out. I think Florida's not going to be able to manufacture enough points offensively, but they can shrink the game a little bit and keep the ball in front of them. I think they got a shot. So I think it's going to be a really interesting matchup. I really do. I think Florida's going to hang.
Okay, we'll see. Oh, Grover tweets in, it's Kobe's logo. Yes. But I'm gonna say it's not far off what you said about the Reebok.
I thought it was Reebok.
Rebrand. Yeah, I thought it was like the Rebel Alliance Star Wars logo. Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. About to go MAXX ball here on Friday, November the 8th, 9 a.m., 1 hour to go. Still got Booger McFarland to talk Bama LSU in 30 minutes. But let's dive into that one just a little bit, Greg, and some more thoughts on Alabama, LSU. You send us your thoughts at Mac and Cube. You can be a part of the show there. 800-239-9569. You want to share your thoughts on that game coming up this weekend, you can do so with us on the Buyers Right hotline. Okay, so this Alabama offense one, you talked about confidence a little bit earlier with quarterback. Jalen Milroe's name came up, and obviously Alabama's going to need a confident Jalen Milroe, capable Jalen Milroe. Doesn't need to, I don't think, throw the ball 35 times to go win this game. But when you look at how he operates, what he does well, maybe what he's struggling with right now, what's the part of this LSU defense that concerns you specifically for Jalen Milroe and what you believe he'll be asked to do in this game?
Well, I think the one thing that would concern me is that I think sometimes he can get a little bit fixated on Ryan Williams, and I think that Zy Alexander for LSU is a guy that can, I'm not saying neutralize Ryan Williams, but I think he can be physical with Ryan Williams and kind of disrupt the rhythm of the passing game. So that's something I'm going to be real mindful of, is Jalen allowing his feet to be connected with his eyes, because that's been a bit of an issue this year. His feet, when they get a little bit like a little bit, I don't know, not disgruntled, like what's, like sometimes his erratic. Yes, his feet get awry, but you can see his eyes are in the right place, but his feet aren't always where they need to be in order to throw to the right place. So connecting his eyes to his feet, I think, would have been the number one priority if I were on the staff throughout the bye week. I also think creating elements of the run game is going to be of the utmost importance as well for him. When he hits the hole at 100 miles an hour, man, there's not a lot of people that hit it that hard. And I think that's going to be something that's huge. You can crease him. This is a group that can get creased. If you look at LSU, they got great players. They have really good players along the front. But I don't know. Answer me this. LSU's offensive lines that they've faced this year. Who's the best one?
The best
A&M?
offensive line that I think they're in the discussion. I mean, we could probably utilize process of elimination here pretty easily. It's not going to be USC Nichols. It's not going to be UCLA South Alabama. South Carolina's group is not there. The Ole Miss group has not played well this year. Arkansas has not been very good this year. It's Texas A&M easily. Yes. Yeah.
But is A&M as good as Alabama along the offensive line?
I don't view them as a great offensive line. I think they have taken consistent steps throughout the course of the season, and I think they're more a group that has 2-3 guys playing really well a lot of the time than a group that operates really well together. But they're getting there. They're getting close to it. So yeah. Alabama's offensive line is better than A&M's offensive line right now. Yes.
Okay, so this will be the best offensive line that LSU's faced. And when you look at LSU's personnel along the defensive front, I think they have great edge guys. Like, if you let Braden Swinson, number 4, get going, you're in for a long day.
Really good
Are we
player.
on the same page there?
Really good player. Versatile.
He's excellent.
Has juice, plays hard, can beat you multiple ways. Yeah, he's big time.
Big time, big time. Like, huge fan of his. I think Savion Jones, number 35, is a good player. I don't think he's elite. I think he's a good player.
Super try-hard guy. Limited athletically, super try-hard guy. Going to give you almost max effort every time he's out there. Will take himself out of some plays. Will get that pad level high at times, but he finds himself around the football. Like, he's kind of a gamer. So, solid player, as you said, yes.
And then on the interior, here's where it becomes a little bit of a challenge for him. I am not big on their interior guys. I think Bro is fine. He's solid. I think Gio Paez is fine. Bro, by the way, a true freshman. Don McKinley, a true freshman. Gio Paez, a run stopper from Wisconsin. I think the most disruptive guy is Javier Suggs, number 31.
He's really come on the last couple of weeks. He's coming on.
He's a handful. Like and I saw him pop, and I remember asking the coaches about him in week 7, and people saying, "All right, whoa, wait, you know about him? Don't say anything." You know what I mean? Like we need to kind of keep him under wraps. But he's been playing good football for him. So 31 is a guy that I think has a chance to be very impactful in this game. But I do think their D tackles are gettable. Their best defensive player, and I'm not sure it's close, is number 40, Whit Weeks. As far as impacting every snap. Look, edge rushers are great. Edge presences are great. If I get an off-the-ball linebacker that's a handful, like Whit Weeks is, that's of concern. Greg Penn can't run. So number 18, he can't run. Sure tackler, great leader, great communicator, but he can't run. So Whit Weeks is a guy that kind of has to make up for a lot with Greg Penn. And I think that's where you have to attack him, is at Greg Penn. I think you got to attack him at safety. If you can attack him at defensive tackle, if you can attack 18, you can attack him at safety, you got a real good chance of moving the ball with some consistency.
I would agree with that. Whit Weeks, great. I think I might take 4 ahead of Whit Weeks. But I also understand, excuse me, Whit Weeks is put in positions on a more consistent basis to affect the game in more ways. Both
He's
fantastic.
a kamikaze pilot, dude. He blows it up more than Braden Swinson. Now, Braden Swinson's a handful. I'm not saying like I wouldn't want to block him, but I'll tell you what Whit Weeks does. Like he goes in and takes out 3 offensive guys and frees up 2 of his teammates.
Yeah.
Like he's a wedge buster playing defense.
No, he is. I mean, the kamikaze pilot vernaculum, I think, is accurate for him. I think that's a good description. Because it's not, you can tell it's not read and react very often.
No.
It's not read your keys very often. It's just, hey man, could you just go disrupt things and make life easier on everybody else? Yes, sir. And he'll bat a ball down, he'll pick a ball off, he'll hit a puller in the backfield, which will force, a run to spill, and it lets everybody else go make a play. So yeah, and I don't know against this offense if that is overly advantageous. Because if you're playing that style against Jalen Milroe on specific plays, that's where he can either keep it or give it and make you pay. And that can be a real problem. I'm interested in your thoughts on Jalen Milroe in the read game and how you feel like he's operated there. And is the variety with the Alabama read game, with him having the option to keep the ball, going to grow some in this game this week?
I think he's been very hit or miss in the read game. It's almost like quarter to quarter, drive to drive. There's some drives when he's dialed in on the read game, and there's other drives where it's like, why didn't you pull that? Or why did you pull that? I do think there's a lot of times with Jalen where he tries to do way too much. I think he's trying to do way too much sometimes. I think he tries to play hero ball sometimes. I think he's a guy that reads his press clippings a bit. I think he wants to try to do everything, which I think is not a bad quality. I just think sometimes, hey man, just read it. Like against Georgia, there were 2 or 3 really bad reads in the second half in the run game, where if he hands it off, you're fine. You're in good shape. Or at least it's a gain of 6. You might not score, but it's a gain of 6. Like I think he's a little bit too focused on, rolling. Like he'd hit on 16 so he can get 21. You know what I mean? Like he'd hit on 15 so he can get 21. Like as opposed to just taking a winning hand.
I hit on 16 now. It's
well, that's fine. Like sometimes situation dependent. If a dealer's showing a 3, I'm not hitting on 16. You know what I'm saying?
Doesn't matter.
Like, and that's my big thing with Jalen, is that sometimes the situation you need to just, hey, I'll stay. But no, he always wants to hit. And I don't think that's always the best play from a situational awareness standpoint. Sometimes the game requires you to play methodically, and that's not how he operates. He's always going for the jugular. He's always trying to push it downfield. He'll pass up a 3-yard gain in favor of a possibility of a 40-yard touchdown every single time. And that's okay. But understand that a game like this, a momentum game on the road with high stakes and high emotions, on the road, you have to be a surgical trained killer. And every single positive play is a positive. I don't care if it's 1 yard or if it's 75 yards. Every single positive play is a positive. The more you gain yards, the more you take their crowd out of it. And I think that's why he's struggled on the road in his career, because he often tries to do a little too much. And when momentum is a factor and you take negative plays, that's where things occasionally go haywire.
So take us through from a quarterback perspective, something you brought up just a little bit earlier, locking in on Ryan Williams. You had a guy that most people would say would be very easy to just say to yourself, I'm throwing it to 8. Like, why would I even think about going to somebody else? But then you've also, you've told us other stories about other guys that you've had, and how valuable they were at receivers that didn't have anywhere near the capabilities physically that Julio Jones did. How do you get out of that? If that's a problem, and you do sort of have it in the back of your mind of, I just need to get the ball to this kid, can you be coached out of that? How about this? Can you be play called out of that if, say, Nick Sheridan knows that's an issue, and how?
Well, I think it can be. I think you can get problem is if you have like mirrored concepts and like both the Z and the X are running the same route and you're working away from rotation, or you have one-on-one, like it's hard not to throw it to your guy. I don't think it's I think when you look at Ole Miss last week, let's use them as an example. Trey Harris is out, right? Which leads Jackson Dart to just take what the defense gives him and pick his matchups and kind of see everybody equally in their offense. And look at the result, 515 yards of offense through the air last week. Sometimes, look, having a top flight wide receiver is a blessing and a curse, because when he's covered, he's open unless he's double teamed. But with how a lot of these offenses are structured now, it's really hard to double team guys. So I think that having Ryan Williams is awesome, but you need to allow and make sure that the progressions and that the reads are not impacted by that get out of jail free card that is a top flight alpha dog wide receiver. So I think you got to make sure that you trust the progressions, trust your feet, trust your eyes, trust your practice. And if Ryan's open, by all means, rip it. Like if Ryan's covered but looks like he could become open, rip it by all means, for sure. But don't just, say, oh, when in doubt, where's Ryan? When in doubt, where's Ryan? Trust the other guys too. They'll make plays for you and often do. So I think that's going to be kind of the next evolution of this offense, is getting Jeremy Bernard going, getting the tight ends going, getting K-Law going, getting Prentice going, like getting those guys going a little bit to take some of the pressure off Ryan so he can get more single coverage looks down the field.
All right, here's what we're going to do. Well, that's the Alabama offense. My thoughts on Bama's offense, I've said it all week, multiple weeks now. Greg and I just went through that front for LSU. Some good players. Some guys that can be problematic. I think Gio Paz, who you mentioned, is probably the best anchor, so to speak. Savion Jones can do it on the edge too. I mean, he's got the length, the size to be able to set the edge and physically play against the run. And Braden Swinson doesn't shy away from it. It's just not his specialty, I wouldn't say. But it's not a group that you can't run at, in my opinion. I think it can be done. Those yards can be gained. I think you have to be a little stubborn with it. Not to the extreme level, but I do think that you have to say, all right, there's probably going to be some 1 yard gains, some 3 yard gains, some no yard gain. Like you got to sort of mentally take yourself through the dirty yards first to understand that some of that can open up a little bit later. I also think that helps with the crowd. I think it helps with snap count. I think it helps with a lot of different things if you sort of implement that style game in this matchup. they stick with that, I think they can have success. And I think it also help eliminate some of those things that you're talking about, locking on one guy, opening up things up for that guy, so to speak, and play action, throwbacks, different things of that nature. So I think Alabama's offense can have success if they stick with that portion of the plan. Otherwise, I think you open yourself up to some issues in other places. We'll go to the other side of the ball for Alabama, though. The defense, how they match up against LSU. On the other side, let you know kind of where we are on that one. You should probably be asking yourself where you are if a pest intrudes your home. If you get a raccoon or a possum in the garage, if you got squirrels in the attic, it's easy. You call our friends at Wayne's. Not just your yard, not just the termites, not just the bugs, not just the mosquitoes. Wayne's has wildlife removal services that they can help you out with. That's right, wildlife removal services that they can come in and get them out. They can also help make sure that they're never going to get in. GMAC, just one of the extra reasons that all of our listeners should call Wayne's.
Yeah, and while you're there, make sure you ask them about all the other services that they can provide around your home, whether it's the EnviroPest, the lawn care. All those things are things that Cole and I have been using around our home for a while, and they've been great investments and have improved our experiences around the home. So go and check them out at callwaynes.com. You can also call them at 866-WAYNES1. That's 866-WAYNES1, and let Wayne's continue to create your happy place.
All right, we'll hit a break, come back, break down the Alabama offense against LSU this weekend, next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Going to continue talking Alabama, LSU, and move to the other side of the football now. We'll talk the Alabama defense up against the LSU offense. And we know it's one, Greg, they have a lot of capabilities through the air. Garrett Nussmeier can throw the ball around, legitimate weapons at wide receiver. Kyron Lacy, a handful. C.J. Daniels can be great. We have seen a little bit of the emergence here recently of Aaron Anderson, specifically against A&M and what he's capable of doing with, high percentage short yardage throws. And he's able to turn into explosive plays. An offensive line that can protect. Not much commitment to the run game, though. Where are some of Kane Womack's advantages for you with what he may be able to do to have success against this LSU defense?
I think the linebackers can create some problems up the middle of their offensive line. I think their center is very average. DJ Chester, we already kind of talked about that earlier in the week. I don't know who's going to be filling in at left guard with Dellinger being out. So I would attack up the middle as much as I can. I think Bama doesn't have a ton of advantages here, to be honest with you, as far as personnel is concerned. I don't know how much of a pass rush they're going to be able to create without, without bringing a little pressure. I think it's a big Tim Smith game. If he can create a presence on the interior and if he can create some problems up the middle of the offensive line, that's massive. Really, really big. Because I think getting home on the left side probably won't happen, but maybe you can get home against Emory Jones, the right tackle. I think that's possible, but a lot more probable to get home off the right than off the left. Are we on the same page there? But up the middle is the most susceptible spot.
Yes, I would agree with that. And I'm kind of interested in how he wants to try to go about obtaining pressure on Nussmeier. Is it traditional with just your front? Are there different style players, different bodies he wants to bring in? Maybe off the edge. And we've seen some of these guys be capable at times. I don't know consistently if we've seen a lot of these Alabama defenders do this week in, week out. And we've been very complimentary of LT Overton, what he's done. Jamarian Latham, I feel like, has come on the last few games and giving you a little bit extra. But the edge guys, we thought it was going to be Quay Russaw. He gets a little bit dinged up. And then, Q Robinson's done it off the edge a little bit. He's been a guy that can get there. But I'm interested to see kind of who and how he wants to utilize different players to get pressure in this game, GMAC, because we know that offensive line for LSU is really good and one that you're probably going to have to mix it up against to be able to get to Nussmeier. And as you stated earlier, you gave us the numbers earlier this week about him leaving the pocket. He's not going to do it. He doesn't want to put the ball down and run. So you do have time to add some delayed pressures, simulated pressures, things of that nature, whether it's green dogs, triggers, what might have you. I don't know exactly where he goes, but I'm interested to see it.
I think they're going to have to keep him honest. I mean, Bama can play man in this game. That's a kind of nice thing to know because Nussmeier's not really a run threat. So they can play man in this game. That's big. It's just, you got to know Aaron Anderson is not a guy that you want in a one-on-one situation against Devontae Smith. That's not a winning formula there. I think Damani Jackson can hold his own against Kyron Lacy. I feel pretty good about that. And then, is Hilton back? Do we know if Chris Hilton's back this week?
I don't know definitively, no.
So they've been without their best deep threats pretty much all season long, LSU has. Hilton has been banged up and has missed a lot of time. So if he's back, that's something worth watching. I don't see him listed right now on the injury report. So that means Hilton's probably back. So get ready because now you have a burner on the outside that can create some problems. But I don't think that's going to be a huge problem for Mbakwe and Brown on the edge. Like a guy that's a bit of a one-trick pony downfield doesn't concern me. The guy I don't want Mbakwe covering is Kyron Lacy because Kyron Lacy's really physical. And we've already seen this year that a really physical wideout can give the freshmen some fits. So we'll see how that goes. But I think Damani Jackson, you lock him with Kyron, call that a day. And then you got to hope the freshmen are capable of making sure they stay over the top of a guy that's really good on the outside. And hopefully you switch up the looks just enough to create confusion to talk you out of throwing it to Aaron Anderson. Because I think Aaron Anderson's their best offensive weapon, even though I know that's not a super popular opinion.
Right. All right, Jimmy in Hoover wants to chime in. Welcome in, Jimmy. You're on the Buyers Right Hotline. What's on your mind?
Good morning, gentlemen. Yeah, I kind of touched on what I was calling regarding. Cole, you played the position center, Greg, quarterback. What kind of problems does it pose for the LSU offense, going forward with the left guard missing? What would you have to do as a center to do differently, if anything? And, Greg, what would you have to do with quarterbacking with this situation?
Well, from a center perspective, it doesn't change a ton. I mean, you're going to make sure that you're distributing information to him, probably first and foremost. You know the majority of the other guys that are going to be in there. You don't have to over-communicate with them. You'll over-communicate with a player that's going to be in that maybe doesn't have the same kind of reps. And then in pass protection, you'll probably inch that way a little bit more. If you have 2-3 techniques, you'll probably set to his side just to make sure he gets some help first. If you're setting away from him, you'll have your eyes over there always just to make sure if he needs some extra help, you're going to be there to do that. Those would be the only two things. Maybe trying to emphasize snap count, because I know a lot of times as a new player, when you come in, you're thinking about your assignment, you're looking at the other players across from you, you're thinking about that, and you're like, oh man, are we on 1? Are we on 2? Is it first sound? That's the first thing that I feel like you forget when you come into a game in a high pressure moment. So probably re-emphasizing that, whether it's at the line of scrimmage, coming out of the huddle, whatnot. Those would be the main things that I would kind of focus in if that were for me. Greg, I can't imagine that it has much to do with you. You're not doing much for a new guard.
I think just communication is the biggest problem. I mean, I can speak from experience against Auburn 2010. We had a backup guard in the game. Chance Warmack got hurt or banged up, or for whatever reason, I don't recall if he played the whole game or missed some of the game. And our backup guard, and I won't say who, went in. We had a pretty simple protection call. Quick game rip protection, which means the offensive line is sliding to their left and the running backs going to the right. The guard in this particular case heard rip, slid right, and Nick Fairley's unblocked, and I get killed. So it's something that you just got to make sure everybody's on the same page. And I think when you're a backup and you're inserted in there, they can be moving pretty quick. I think you try to communicate, you try to think, but mistakes happen when you have guys out there that haven't played a lot in critical moments. So it's a problem if you're a quarterback, and you just got to make sure your communication is really, really good in those situations.
Absolutely. All right, Brandon in Leeds wants to chime in. Welcome in, Brandon. You're on the Buyers Right Hotline.
Hey, good morning, guys. Thanks for taking my call. Two quick questions. All season, I have seen throughout the games that, especially on kickoffs, that the referee will announce that, a certain player is now wearing a different jersey. I've called into other shows where nobody's ever really played at that level, so I don't know what the significance of that is, if you can kind of explain that. The second question
I'll tell you why. It's the dumbest thing ever. You want me to tell you why?
Yes, sir.
All right, good. Because I've been hoping for a platform like this. Everyone and their brother wants a single-digit number or a number between 10 and 19. Nobody wants to wear in the 20s. Nobody wants to wear in the 30s or the 80s anymore. Everybody wants to wear the cool kid numbers. That's why you see everyone and their brothers got 2 single-digit numbers. You got a D tackle wearing number 8. And a wide receiver wearing number 8. It's just ridiculous. So you have multiple guys on kickoff, probably a DB and a wide receiver, multiple guys on kickoff that they can't be on the field at the same time. So one has to put on a different jersey for kickoff just so they can look cool by wearing a single digit. as opposed to giving them, number 42. They have to wear number 7. And it's just the dumbest thing ever that we have prioritized looking cool over functionality. But what do I know?
Well, but I mean, I do understand not having, 2 like number 8s on the field at one time. I get it, but it just, do they physically have to change the jersey?
Yes.
Yeah.
They literally
wow.
put on a nameless jersey over the guy's shoulders because, Johnny
It happened in the
Four-Star.
Alabama game. They had two number 2s on the field on punt return.
Because Johnny Four-Star said,
Vanderbilt.
I wore number 6 in high school and I need to wear number 6 in college or I'm not going to your school. They care about some kids will determine whether or not they go to a place if they don't get a single-digit jersey.
That's crazy.
How about zip it and wear 39 and go play? I don't care. Like, it's unbelievable. Yeah. How about the jersey's crimson and white? Go out there and play. Like, be happy with the jersey that you've been given. But what do I know?
Well,
we have created this as adults. Like, we've allowed this to happen. So it's not like it's the kid's fault. Like, I don't blame them for wanting to wear their lucky number and to look cool. But it's, we as adults have allowed this to happen. And, Johnny needs number 10. He can't play. He can't take the field without it. Give me a break.
Not much about swag, I would say. That's what you don't know, Greg.
I dealt with that as a soccer coach for my girls. I mean, just the outpouring of the mom telling me, well, my kid's worn this jersey all this time and she's played so many years, and I get that part. So I guess my second question is, with the NFL going to that new kickoff style, do you think that the NCAA is going to try to adapt that? And I don't feel like, I mean, I understand that, the NFL is saying that it's a safety issue, but I mean, you're looking at kickoff versus a punt. I mean, what is the difference? And I appreciate you guys taking my call, and I'll hang up and listen.
I think there's a lot less north and south in the return game from a punt perspective. I do agree that when you get those big hits from a coverage guy like a gunner every now and then, it's it's obviously not great, but the percentages of it are a lot lower. I think they should all go to the new kickoff rule. Greg and I have talked about this a lot when we did XFL year 1 when it was rebooted. It just felt sensical in a lot of different ways to be able to minimize those and cut down on those. But either way, not sure which direction it's going to go. We are going to go to Booger McFarland on the Buyers Right Hotline to talk Bama LSU when we come back next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 9:36 a.m. right here on Jocks 94.5. Men's college basketball last night. Jacksonville State goes down at Air Force. Had an 8-point lead at the half. They lose 73-67 and go to 1-1 on the season. Also, UNA blasts Point University last night, 94-58. They're 2-0. Alabama A&M 121-78 over Oakwood. First win of the season for the Bulldogs. They shot 46 of 84, hit 12 of 33 threes, and out-rebounded Oakwood 58-39. So a couple of massive wins there. College football this weekend coming up in the state. UConn at UAB, 1:30 ESPN+. Alabama A&M's at Arkansas Pine Bluff, 2 o'clock tomorrow. Also 2 o'clock ESPN+. Alabama State at 5-3 is at Grambling at 4-5. 11 a.m. tomorrow morning, maybe the best team in the state, 7-1 West Alabama at 3-4 Shorter. You guys know where that is, by the way? Shorter? Anybody?
I know that there was 2 tight ends from Shorter that were recruited recently.
Got it. Barron Stadium, Rome, Georgia. Now you know. 1 o'clock tomorrow, Miles College at 7-2. They're at Tuskegee at 5-4. So some local college football happening tomorrow. We go to the Pirates Right Hotline to talk Alabama, LSU. Boog, I thought LSU fans would be excited about the Tiger coming back, man. You were there. I played in a game where the Tiger was there. Now different circumstances around it. I guess people aren't as pumped about it. You think it's cool? Is it dumb? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something for the fans. I think it's something for the opposing team when they come in. But at the end of the day, like, it's one of those things that if the Tiger's there, great. It's just another layer of Death Valley. If it's not, I don't think anybody's going to be like, you know what, man, my experience wasn't great because the Tiger wasn't in the corner, you know?
I think that's a big part of it. It's all part of the viewing experience. Who doesn't want a caged animal that eats meat sitting within 15 feet of them while at Tiger Stadium? Boog, you look at this LSU team, they've improved a lot defensively, but I don't know at this point if they've improved in areas where they're going to need to improve against Alabama, against the run, giving up big plays. How do you think this group is going to handle this group?
Well, I think you have to look at the recent struggles to figure out. I think if you're Alabama and you don't come in and you don't run Jalen Milroe 12 to 15 times just on design runs, zone reads, bash, all those different things, I think you're making a mistake. And, you know, to see if LSU can handle them, because they definitely couldn't handle Marcel Reed. To your point, they've gotten a lot better. But it's the biggest question mark in Baton Rouge. I think the last 2 years, with Jaden Daniels, with Garrett Nussmeier, LSU's been able to score points. They got wide receivers. I'm really not sure why they can't run the football or why they don't want to run it, but that's a whole different conversation. But the biggest question has been their defense and whether or not they're going to show up consistently. I think the Ole Miss game gave you a lot of hope against that high-powered offense, but it's going to be a different type of offense against Alabama, and we'll see what Blake Baker and his crew can do on Saturday night.
All right, Boog, I've talked about this LSU run game. I think it could be there. I think they're more than capable at running back, even though there's been some injuries. They've had to rotate some guys. I think the offensive line can be that group if given the opportunity. They haven't been. Has that ship just sailed? And is LSU just kind of a pass first, live through the past, die through the past football team moving forward?
Well, I truly hope not, because you can't beat teams that are average to above average just doing it one way. Like, you got to be able to have some semblance of balance. And it's not fair, and Greg, you can speak on this. It's not fair to the quarterback to put that much pressure on Garrett Nussmeier to throw it 50 times a game. Like, that's unfair. I don't care how good you are. Like, you're going to have a couple of throws that you wish you had back. So if you're Joe Sloan, the offensive coordinator, and you're Brad Davis, the offensive line coach, and first and foremost, if you're Brian Kelly, who kind of made his name at Notre Dame with the offensive line and how they ran the football, you got to have some sense of pride and run the ball. Now, how much you run it, I'm not saying LSU's going to ever major in the run, especially now with this wide-open attack, but they're going to have to figure out a way, Cole, to at least just give Garrett a break. It's never going to be 50-50, but 60-40, 65-35, maybe 70-30. If they get to 70-30, I think people in Baton Rouge will be happy. And more importantly, I think Nussmeier will get the break that he needs to kind of take a breath, regroup. If you make a bad throw, move on, because every quarterback needs that.
Boog, how would you assess this wide receiver core? I think that they maybe not as good as I expected coming into the season, partly because Chris Hilton hasn't really been available. I think Kyron Lacy's really good. I don't know if he's like a top flight, first round pick. I think he's rock solid. I didn't get as much from CJ Anderson as I anticipated. Transfer from CJ Daniels, transfer from Liberty. But Aaron Anderson in the slot's been awesome. So how would you kind of assess this receiving core and how they'll be able to create matchups against a team that wants to play a lot of man in Alabama?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, Kyron Lacy is a big receiver, more of a 50-50 catch guy. He's not going to run by you. He's a jump ball guy. He doesn't get the separation that we've seen from, Chase, Neighbors, Justin Jefferson. Daniels, I think, has been in and out of the lineup from a health standpoint. He can get that separation. Aaron Anderson has been absolutely outstanding in the slot. And, I think when you put Mason Taylor in the group, you have a receiving core that can work all areas of the field. Taylor can definitely work the underneath. Anderson can go kind of intermediate to deep down the middle. And then if you just want to throw it up and throw it down the sideline, you throw it to Kyron Lacy. They don't have the guy that can run you out of the stadium as far as running the route tree like a Malik Neighbors. But they have a group that's very capable of catching those Garrett Nussmeier passes, McElroy.
Boog, I'm interested in what you see and what you've thought of Alabama's defense this year. We know the weapons LSU has, but just with how Bama may line up, could line up, what worries you about it? Where can LSU have success attacking it?
Well, it's anytime you throw the football as much as LSU does, it's going to come down to can you protect. The Alabama defensive line, whether they're 3 down or 4 down,
Uh-oh.
I expected more. However, at the end of the day, I think they've done what they've been asked to do. We've kind of set against the run, kind of create some havoc up front, set the edge really well. I think anytime you have a young secondary like Alabama does, you're going to need to create pressure on the quarterback. So that's going to be the interesting thing for me. How does Womack and DeBoer say, okay, we got a young secondary against a team that wants to throw the football a lot. Are we going to lay back? I doubt it. So they're going to play man coverage, I think, and come after Nussmeier. And can they hold up on the back end? I think if LSU's tackles can block up front and give Nussmeier an opportunity, I think if you're Joe Sloan, the offensive coordinator, you got to feel good. But again, it goes back to what I said initially. If I know you're throwing the football and there's no danger of you ever running the football, I can play 3 down, I can play 2 down, because you're not going to run me up out of it. And now I can cover the pass from a number standpoint just because I have more guys dropping than you have receivers in the pass route.
There you go. All right,
Boog,
go ahead, Greg.
Quick question, Boog. The defensive line, when you got a quarterback that can be this mobile, how would you play it if you were a defensive lineman knowing Jalen McElroy could take off?
Well, number one, I think you got to force him one way. All quarterbacks have a strong side. His is he's a right-handed quarterback. He wants to go to the right. So if I'm LSU's defensive line, any pressure I bring, I'm bringing from his throwing arm. I'm bringing from the right side. I will put Braden Swinson against the left tackle. I've been very disappointed in Alabama's left tackle this year, Proctor. I expected a little bit more out of him. And so if I'm Baker, I got to say I'm going to put my best pass rusher against him on Jalen McElroy's blind side and just see if I can steal possession or two with a sack, cause fumble. I think that's going to be a key matchup. But to your point, the mobile quarterback, the one thing you can't do is give him options. You got to make him make decisions. And so you got to come after him, but you have to do it strategically. And at the end of the day, you got to get him on the ground. I think Jalen McElroy's 6'2.5", 225 pounds. I've seen him up close and personal. He's a physical specimen. And even when you get there, you got to tackle him and put him on the ground.
Bug, we appreciate the time. Before we let you run, who gets this W?
Well, I try to give you the analyst view. I mean, I'm always going to pick the Tigers, baby. I mean, it's purple and gold. I don't think McElroy has ever gone against Alabama or you have ever gone against Auburn. What I try to do, though, is give it to you from a realistic standpoint, which team can exploit the matchups on either side.
All right. Bug, we appreciate the time. Always great catching up. We'll do it again soon. Enjoy this one.
Y'all have a good one. Good to see you two boys in studio.
Good to see you in studio, Bug.
Good to see you, buddy.
Later.
All right. That's Booger McFarland. By the way, are you going to Baton Rouge after your game?
No.
Okay. Well, you said you'd see Steve tomorrow. So you said, we'll see you tomorrow. I was like, okay.
We'll see him on TV tomorrow.
Yeah, but I didn't know if like you were planning on heading over after your game or something. I was just like,
no.
Oh, all right.
What am I going to do? Get there at midnight? Go out?
I don't know.
Like,
I don't know. I did not know exactly what you were referencing there.
No.
You should know by now what I'm referencing with Game Day Men's Health. If you want to feel better, Game Day Men's Health can help. A couple different ways that they can help you. If it's weight loss, multiple programs that they can get you on there and try to help you with that. If you lack energy, getting poor sleep, feel on edge, all those could be the effects of low testosterone. They want to help you with that as well. A lot of guys experience this, and Game Day Men's Health can help. So what they're going to do is you go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com, set up a free consultation. You get a free PSA test, free testosterone test. Now they got a baseline of where you are health-wise, and they'll present all the different options to you of how they might be able to help you. It's GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Tell them you heard about them right here on Mac and Cube in the morning. Mention Cube, you get 10% off any service that they have. Right there at Game Day Men's Health. Minimal upfront cost for all those programs. That differentiates them from a lot of other folks in Central Alabama. Book your free consultation today at GameDayMen'sHealth.com and tell them you heard about them right here on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, bad box score of the day, final picks for the big games this weekend, and our Super Sofa game of the week next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. 9:51 a.m. Friday, November 8th. Jocks 94.5. LSU, Alabama. I am going Alabama on this one. I think balance offensively will be the difference. I think they can throttle down, still have success. Don't think LSU can do that. I think Kane Wommack will have some different things in coverage for a quarterback that's going to throw you the ball anyway that could allow Alabama to come up with a couple turnovers. I think they'll get one or two of those, and that'll ultimately be the difference. GMAC, which way you going?
I'm taking Bama. I think the balance offensively, but I also think an improved defensive effort. The big thing is going to be for them to make sure they don't allow big plays in the passing game. I'm not anticipating much pressure being able to be created. But I don't think LSU is going to be a team that can run the football with great efficiency if they want to. I don't know if they can. So bottling up Caden Durham, making LSU one-dimensional, and not giving up big plays is going to be of the utmost importance in this game. I'm going Bama. I just think they're a little bit more well-rounded football team. But if we were going superstars, this becomes a star-driven affair. LSU probably has more, but I still think Bama is the more well-equipped team, higher floor, and a higher floor team in a game like this, I think will be fine. They just got to weather the storm. They can't have the pre-snap penalties like they've had in the past as well.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Damian, which direction you going with this one?
I'm going Alabama. I think Jalen Milroe, if he could kind of replicate what he did to this team last season, utilizing his legs a little bit more, I think that's going to be your best bet. And I think Alabama wins down there in Death Valley.
All right, John.
I guess I will be the Kirk Herbstreit to make sure we don't have the clean sweep. I'm going LSU. If Jalen Milroe will use his legs and run like Marcel Reed did, then yeah, I believe Alabama would win. We haven't seen that much lately, and Alabama does have a lot of question marks. I think both teams are relatively equal, and if it's at home, I'll take LSU.
All right, Ole Miss, Georgia. Greg, you can't pick this one. You'll be on the call for it. I'm going Georgia here. I think enough physicality, I think balance, and I think that Kirby and company are going to be able to dial some things up with that defense up front to cause some confusion. Availability at receivers big for Ole Miss, and I do think that Ole Miss front will be problematic. This game, I'd probably take the under in this one. I think scoring is not going to be as frequent as a lot of people believe, but I'm going to go Georgia. Damian, where are you going?
I'm going Georgia too, man. I just think that especially if Georgia's defense plays like they did against Texas and really kind of just shakes the foundation, I think Georgia wins comfortably.
All right, let's get to our Super Sofa game of the weekend. You only get one to choose from. If you could watch one game this weekend, which one would it be? And as always, it is brought to you by Greg.
TD's Fine Furniture. TD's Fine Furniture. Go up and see them in Summerton. So many different things coming in right now. They have the Black Friday sale that started early. And with the store that's 2 football fields size, you can buy in bulk. You can do whatever you need. It's TD's Fine Furniture just down the road from all those high prices.
All right, Super Sofa game of the weekend, GMAC. Where are you going?
Bama LSU. It's one of my favorite games on the calendar. This one's no different. Absolutely love this game. Always do. I think it's going to be a war. It's obviously a playoff game. So Bama LSU, 6:30 Central Time on ABC.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go your game, Georgia at Ole Miss, 2:30 ABC. I just think the intrigue of what could potentially surprise me as to how this one plays out is a little bit more so in Alabama and LSU. I think it's pretty simple in that game. If Bama can't find a pass rush or youngsters struggle in the secondary, then obviously I think LSU wins. Bama plays ball control, physicality in the run game gets going. They grab a turnover too. I think Alabama wins. There's a lot of ways that your game could go that I feel like are possible, feasible, that might surprise me a little bit more. So I'm going to go with that one. John, Super Sofa game of the weekend. Where are you going?
Give me South Carolina Vanderbilt. I think that's a surprisingly sneaky good game. Both teams are a lot better than expected. South Carolina Vanderbilt, 3:15 SEC Network.
I think that's the Super Sofa recliner of the weekend. It's like the sneaky best game of the weekend nobody's talking about. Like, I don't know if it's a full sofa, but like it's the, super Ottoman game of the weekend. Yeah. Super inflatable mattress of the weekend. South Carolina Vandy is where I would go. Damian, where are you going?
I'm going to Alabama LSU. Night game in Death Valley. Best game in the SEC.
Tough to beat that one. Yeah. All right. Appreciate Bruce Pearl joining us. Stanford Steve, Booger McFarland. If you missed any of those, podcasts available at jocksfm.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get yours. Please like, rate, review, subscribe. If you miss watching the show, you want to do that, you can go back to YouTube and watch it later today as well. We'll be back 7 to 10 a.m. Monday morning to recap all of it. Three-man front coming at you next.